Call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. Reminder to everyone here, the meeting is being digitally recorded, so please be respectful of each other when they're speaking, as well as when you're listening to the sound effects around here. Okay? So, anyone here for open session? Francois?
Thank you, Jeff. Francois Steiger, 65 Hillville Road in Hubbardston. I'm here as a citizen, and also to thank Nathan Boudreau for the email he sent out on February 14th, updating the status and situation on 248 Garden Road. I do want to note that I accept all of the wonderful criteria that have been imposed and put together by the building commissioner. I do note, however, that there still is activity of work that is actually being performed there, which in my opinion, and based on what I read from the note here, Duffy noted that he has reminded the tenant that no permits will be issued for any work until all zoning violations have been corrected. That tells me that obviously this is obviously blatantly, this is being blatantly ignored by the individual or individuals who are there. There's tow trucks that are arriving with vehicles to be worked on. Let me remind everybody, this is a non-commercial zone area. The individual who's there is conducting a business that supposedly is supposed to be licensed in the town of Hubbardston. And not only that, the type of work that is being conducted there has a tendency to also cause problems when it comes to the disposal of liquids that are potentially considered hazardous. And I also want to remind the board here that this is an area which is very close by to a very sensitive watershed area. So as a result of this here, I do respectfully ask that the town administrator, as well as the board, take this into consideration as it foresees any future actions that need to be taken. Thank you.
What would be, excuse me, what would be the proper action initially? The police or?
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. The police, every department that could be involved in that parcel has been. I'm a little bit hesitant to talk about a parcel or person publicly without them being made aware, because I do believe that everyone should have the right to hear what is being said about them or their property to either defend themselves or at least put in a second side of the story. Francois, I appreciate you coming forward with that. Let me look into it, because all I have right now is what I emailed you.
I understand.
The way Duffy, the building commissioner, is dealing with that, I thought it was fair, but if you are saying that there is still active zoning violations going on, then maybe they are not taking it as seriously as we anticipated them taking it, and that can be reconsidered. So let me talk to the building commissioner. I wish I would have known this a little earlier, because he works late on Mondays, but let me talk to him and circle back.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Francois. Anyone else for open session? Okay, we'll go to the announcements. Katie?
Alright, so just in case you were unaware, there is a primary presidential election tomorrow for everybody. March 5th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. right over here at Hubbardston Center School. Head on over, and Candace and the rest of the election crew will gladly help you cast your ballot. Also coming up, there is Q Drugs' second Purple for Prevention light decorating contest. We actually have 2 people in town that have registered to be in this competition. One does happen to be my daughter, so I just put that out there first. But the other one is Giacomo's in Hubbardston. That's why they have the purple out front. So the rest of them, there's all over the place. Barry, Petersham, Athol, like they're Hardwick, they're all over the place. But it's all for a good cause. The public is allowed to vote, and you guys can check out all the addresses. There's a whole list. I encourage you to check it out and see what it's all about. But it's just kind of something, you know, to bring awareness to some, you know, much needed awareness, drug advocation causes and things through the high school. So it's a good competition to just kind of look at. So anyway, that's through this week through I believe the 8th you can vote. Also, Q Drug has, for their Purple for Prevention week, they have, what is number, a little bit further down, it's Thursday, yes. Thursday, I know, I'm like, it's somewhere, hold on, I got it here, I promise. Chris Herron up at the high school will be giving an inspirational speech. The event is free. It's Thursday the 7th at 6 p.m. And you can go up there and hear all about how he was a basketball player for
The Celtics.
the Celtics. Okay, I knew he was something. Like my kids told me all about it. I'm like, it's going in all the ears, you know. So yeah, so you can go up there. This is free for anyone that wants to go up there and listen to it, and it's up at the high school. Thursday, March 7th at 6 p.m. And again, that is for Q Drug Prevention Week. They do have a website. You can check out all this information at qdrug.org. Let's see, what else do we have? We have something fun here. We have St. Patty's Day Luncheon on March 16th from noon to 2. And this is a fundraiser for the Hubbardston Council on Aging, not the Friends. It's the Friends of the Hubbardston Senior Center. They have donated a large sum of money to the deck, just in case anyone's unaware. I will put that out there. They don't really want to talk about it, but I'm going to put it out there. They were kind enough to donate a large sum of money. They're trying to rebuild some of their coffers. So they are having a luncheon for St. Patty's Day. It's $7 per person. They're doing sandwiches, baked potato bar. Sounds interesting. Some desserts, and they also have a lottery ticket raffle. This is open for anyone. You don't have to be a senior. Everyone's allowed to go, young and old. And again, that is March 16th from noon to 2, and it's over here at the Senior Center. The Hubbardston Community Theater has SpongeBob the Musical coming. You can buy tickets now through Venmo on their website. The play itself is, the first one is Friday, March 15th. They have 2 on Saturday the 16th and 1 showing on Sunday the 17th. $15 for adults, and kids under the age of 12, and seniors are $10. And this showing is at the Hubbardston Center School. They work really hard putting this together every year. If you haven't ever seen them, that's a lot of effort these people put into it. And it should be a good show. And again, it's SpongeBob the Musical. Who knew? That SpongeBob, there was a musical. There's also on March 20th, there's a fundraiser for the library. The only thing is, I don't know what time. I want to say it's 10 o'clock.
10 a.m.
Okay, it is 10 a.m. Thank you. And it's the Patricia, the reading story time lady, is having a fun story time, kind of take pictures with bunnies with little kids. And there's a fee of, I want to say it's $10 or $15.
$15 per family though.
Per
so
family.
It's not,
You take your own pictures. They're gonna have bunnies there, I guess. So it's something to help with the kids and, you know, the library, and have some fun there. So that is March 20th at 10 a.m. at the Hubbardston Library.
recommended donation.
Okay, recommended donation.
They're not gonna kick you out.
No, nobody ever kicks anybody out in Hubbardston. Alright, so also coming up, there are some scholarships that will be due soon. I know the Country Hen is due soon, the Hubbardston Scholarship Committee is due soon, the Lions Club has one that's due sometime soon as well, and usually the library has one as well, but I haven't seen that one posted yet. Okay. But they're all coming up and they're all due soon, and some of them are just for seniors and some of them are for even adults going back for more education, depending on which one it is. So definitely I will tell you, if you have a senior or somebody that's coming back, check it out because there's scholarships available. We have Keep Hubbardston Beautiful Day coming up on April 20th from 8 to noon. The Girl Scouts will have a bottle and can drive like usual. The Boy Scouts this year are changing it up a little bit. Instead of electronics, they're gonna have a metal recycling fundraiser. And they're asking for either $1 per item to drop off, or $10 per load. They do take batteries. I think there's a $10 fee for batteries. The full list is on the town website, and we've been sharing a flyer around of what is taken or what's not taken, more or less. But it is a fundraiser for the Boy Scouts, and it's for the scrap metal, and you got those nasty old grills hanging around, or somebody's, you know, bike or whatever. Just throw it in the truck, bring it on up, you know, it's cheap and easy, it's, you know, right up at the rec field, they'll have a dumpster. And then I'll have, bags available to pick up trash, or you can bring your own bag of trash that you already picked out up in your front yard and huck it up there. But again, that's Keep Hubbardston Beautiful Day. Let's, clean up the town, recycle, get rid of all those, beer and bottle cans you got lying around or your scrap metal. So that's all on April 20th from 8 to noon at the rec field. And then we also have the Hubbardston Fair coming up on June 8th from 9 to 2 at the rec field, and the rain date is June 9th. So that's enough. Okay, moving on.
Katie,
Yes.
so the Storytime fundraiser looks like it's 10 a.m. on the 20th, and it says recommend donation $15 per family.
$15.
That's what we said.
Yeah, that's what we said.
Oh, I thought it was 10. Maybe I just.
I was like, I wasn't
But
sure if it was 10 or
10
15.
so
Yes, it's 10 a.m.
We're good.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Any other announcements to be made? Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road. Last year, I don't believe tires were accepted for the cleanup, so if that could be clarified.
Nope.
Thank you.
They don't, the dumpster
Well,
people
just
do
so
not
we
like
know,
tires, yes.
that needs to be.
Yeah, that's a whole different
Thank you.
dumpster fee.
Okay. All right, we're gonna skip, item 4, as Carrie's delayed, and we're gonna go to, we'll invite Travis Brown, our DPW director, to come into the meeting now for the, road plan review. So, are you there, Travis?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. So,
So, nothing's really changed from the last time other than I added FY 28. On FY 27, because of the rise of cost of everything, Dogwood Self was dropped from the dog list in general. Not saying it won't be added in someplace else, it's just where the money are is how it showed up. As you can see, the money's coming just to do New Westminster Road and Brigham to the bridge. It's coming over from leftover RAP money and the fair share, which we got this year.
Travis, excuse me for interrupting, but right now, the people who are here, other than ourselves, cannot see the, outline that you gave us, so for the time being, if you're talking money and you wanna be specific, feel free to.
Do you have it up, Travis?
I have it up. You can get it off the website and put it up, right?
I was gonna have you share your screen, but yeah, I can go to the website. I just don't know how big it's gonna get with, the people that are in the Google Meet room.
I can cut mine on Splash Top, so I'm actually looking at my computer at work, so.
I'm glad you're
I'll
using
take it slow.
Splashtop,
What is Splash Top?
the way to access the work computers from home.
Oh,
It was
okay.
purchased during COVID.
Of course it was. Everything was purchased.
Secret squirrel stuff.
Secret Squirrel stuff.
We can't see it.
Could we run copies?
That'd
We
be a
can
lot of
try our
copies.
best.
That'd be a lot of copies. He'll get it. There you go.
Just for
No,
here.
it's only
No, just for
Wow.
here.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 copies.
Yeah. Okay.
Travis, what year do you want me to open?
Right there is fine.
Okay, just let me know. I'll be your Vanna White.
So as you can see, in order to do this, because we only get $350 a year from Chapter 90 and hasn't changed in years. As you see, because we are able to get the fair share program this year, and then the leftover RAP money, which is Winter Recovery Act Plan money, that's what we had done some preventative maintenance to the road with. So we had some left over there, so I added it in, and then obviously that is if we do get the 100 from the capital plan in order for us to complete the project. Unfortunately, these are all it's a plan, but like everything's gone up. I'm catching from companies and other bids that went out this year. Last year, it was 92 a ton for liquid, for asphalt in general, applied in place. And I'm hearing that it's now up to about 100. So I'm hoping that the bids come in mid-9s to keep us close to what we were. But this is what I got to deal with. So I'm giving you approximates on numbers because they change all the time. So I'm hoping to do what you see here for this year. I might have to cut back depending on money availability, but that is the plan there.
Can we review the remainder of the years in the plan, just because there are people in attendance both here in person and online that came here for this specific reason? We can then give them a moment to express their concerns or their concerns with the plan. I do ask that when we get to that point, a lot of people did write in. If you hear someone make your same point, just kind of say, hey, me too, versus sitting here for a long time. But Travis, if you could go through the remainder of the plan as well, just for the good of the order, that would be great too.
So, as you see, for the year after that is Elm Street and Brigham Street, along with Barry Road and Parsons. They're all in. This actually group of roads here have been bumped a few times just because of the Main Street project. They're going to have the whole center of town shut down. So they have been moved around, and we all been up and down Brigham Street and Elm Street and all that, like in desperate need of repair. So that's what you see for the year after this coming fiscal year. And then as you got the Dogwoods, North, Laurel, and Geordie for FY 27. FY 28, we have New Templeton Road, which has by far the most cars traveled a day on. And if you travel down New Templeton, you would see that it's in desperate need of some help. So our plan is to do from it'd be from, I think it's just about the first pond. No, it's from 68 all the way to Cross Road.
How
And then
far
we have
after
others
Crossroad does
below.
Templeton pick up?
What's that?
How far after Cross does, it's a while, right?
What do you mean, before you hit Templeton
Yeah.
line? From 68 to Cross is probably,
It's the majority of the road.
yeah, it's, yeah.
So let me see. I have, if I can bring it up on my
I
computer.
think it's a little bit more than half, but not
Yeah.
by much.
There's still that hole.
Yeah, you gotta go past Birches and then down to the town line. For the rest.
It's okay, Travis.
Yeah. So the third section is 50, length of it, about 5,300 feet. It's got about 14,000 square yards. To do that other section in New Templeton, like 320,000. So we did a preventative maintenance on it to hold together. Hopefully, time comes, we got money, we can do a no and fill on that or something like that. Unfortunately, we all know that money is the factor here, why we're not able to do what needs to be done. And it doesn't get any better moving forward because there's no money there. The state doesn't give us any more. They did try to help us this year with the Fair Share program, helping the small towns because they feed a lot of cities with the extra monies because they want, safe routes to school, and you can kind of see what that does. What they did to the center of town, it kind of takes up a lot of room and big sidewalks, and in our town, we only have so much room, especially as an example is Elm Street. It'd be great to continue the sidewalk down to Parsons Road, safety purposes especially. But a lot of times we can't get grants or anything, especially for that road, because you can't fit into it. We looked a few times to do it, and it's the same with Brigham. They're not very wide. You're into people's yards, and it'd be kind of like Main Street, taking land to put walkways and widening roads. But it really just comes down to money. It's not we don't want to do them. We really don't. Been level funded since I've been in charge, and everything's gone up since. So,
Travis, for those who may not know, can you explain what the Fair Share monies are? A number of people don't follow along as closely as you and I do this because we work here, but could you explain where that money came from and why we received it, and about how much it was this year, and if it is expected to continue?
the Fair Share it's if you go back to FY25, I listed it there. It explains what money we got from what. So as you can see, I had leftover RAP. It was about $2,100. I had leftover Chapter 90 money from the year before, which helps me year after year. If I have that to add to the $350 we get from Chapter 90. And then the Fair Share program was that a lot of the cities don't use their Chapter 90 money, and it just builds up in there. And they're seeing this, and they're hearing that from the small towns like ourselves. We need the money to help do our roads, and they're seeing this, so they kind of made this program up to help us out.
So what the Fair Share...
It's anything under, I believe it was 7,000 in people got it.
Here, Travis, let me give them a quick rundown on this. So last year on the ballot, possibly 2 years ago, there was a ballot referendum listed under what was called the millionaire's tax at the time. It ended up winning the day and being approved. Regardless of how you feel about that, this isn't a political discussion. What those monies were to be used for were education and infrastructure. One of the first things that they did with those monies was take a allocation of the money and put them out to roads. The first half of the monies being sent out in accordance with the Chapter 90 formula, and the second $50 million being sent out in accordance with the length of rural roads that you had in your community. Hubbardston has a good amount of rural roads. Between the two formulas, we ended up getting approximately 218 or 85.
What was that? What was the last part?
How much money did we get for Fair Share? 218 or 285?
229, 290.
It says 229,
290. So, and that was money that we were happy to receive. It, in the current plan, it did add to New Westminster and FY29. It's money that we will likely see again in the future, but it's determined by the legislature. So, that's that. Sorry, Travis.
Well, that's fine. Good. Don't like really have that. That's what it comes down to, money. If we don't see any of this Fair Share or RAP or anything like that, I mean we're stuck with 351. And if you look at any of the costs to do any of these roads, you see it doesn't go far. So the extra 100 from the town, which we've been getting for the past couple of years now, it definitely helps. But And what it did was really keep us doing what it normally did, because if we didn't have it, we'd be doing less.
And unfortunately, in the event of rainy days, the extra $100,000 that has been allocated annually to roads in the capital plan would be one of the first things to go, so. Mr. Chair, if you wanted to take opinions, I
I
think
just-
Travis is.
Travis, you all set, and we'll take some questions and,
Yes. I'm good.
okay, thank you. Debbie?
Debbie Chamberlain, 7 Laurel Street. I'd like to know if the board's gonna take into consideration any of the emails they received from the residents requesting that these roads be put back to the original order that they were paved, where New Westminster has now been moved ahead of Brigham Street, Elm Street, and Dogwood Road North, Geordie and Laurel Streets. These roads are a public safety hazard. There are twice as many residents that live in the Dogwood area as in the portion of New Westminster Road.
Really?
I did the math, it's in the email that I sent. We also have a high traffic count due to the number of residents living there with our school buses, our trash, our deliveries every day. There's a very high number. There's a public safety risk. I've come before you. The public safety cannot travel anything over, and I'd be surprised if they could do 19 miles an hour now. Literally, it is barely passable. I just saw a neighbor having a car towed off on a flatbed yesterday because of the road. You cannot imagine how poor of the conditions. And to say that you're putting New Westminster ahead, yeah, that is a main road, but those are for people passing through. We could take all these monies allocated and put your list back to the original. We never asked to be moved up, we were waiting our turn, but now you're putting New Westminster Road ahead of us, and that's pushing us obviously more years out, and you're serving less actual residents. The amount of revenue collected in that neighborhood is the amount of our Chapter 90 funding for 1 year. That's what we've been paying for over 30 years, and we have had very little maintenance, and we try to wait our turn, but it is really a safety issue, and we would urge you to please consider putting these roads back to the original order of paving. Thank you.
So Select Board, please note that because of schedules, I did not receive Deb's email by the deadline of last Thursday, but I did receive it today, when I will ensure to forward it to your attention so that you have
I
the email.
received a reply back,
Yeah.
prior to the deadline that it was received, so.
Any other comments or from people here? Are you all representing the same at this particular point in time? Any thoughts from the board?
How many homes are in there, Ned?
72,
Okay, there's 185 and where I
not on the
live.
portion where I counted when you were paving.
Well, I live on Muskogee Ave. There's 185 houses in there with part of Pinecrest. So that's the only thing I question, because you said, when you say New Westminster, you gotta take all the roads that shoot off of New Westminster also, correct?
No, I didn't take those in, I took
Okay.
actual residential homes living on the roads proposed.
Okay, but we pay taxes towards those roads also, and we pay towards,
And
So-
that road is in much better repair than ours. Have you driven down those roads? I would urge you all to please,
I have driven
Please.
down those roads. They're terrible. They're miserable. But I think when it comes to Travis, you gotta look at traffic count and the amount of vehicles traveling over the road. Believe me, I mean, when was yours supposed to be done, according to, what,
it would have been another year.
so 26?
New Westminster wasn't even on the list, and it just moved up.
Yeah, 25.
It was
26.
originally 25, and it's gotten pushed
Okay, and it's
to
bumped to
26.
27.
And now 27.
27.
Glenn?
three, like I said, Elm Street and Brigham Street, they got bumped 2 years for Main, and they got bumped for Main Street project, and they got bumped for New Westminster, because they would have been this year. The problem is that you got a high-speed road that does connect many roads to it, and it's not a residential development road that has not the speed of New Westminster. And the amount of traffic that's on that road, you have to take into consideration. This wasn't easy, because I knew there would be kickback on it, but unfortunately, even the patchwork that we did just to get us through the winter time, we're patching other parts of the road because it's falling apart. It's doing exactly what Route 62 at the Hubbardston-Barry line is, all the way through Barry. It's not gonna get any better, it goes real quick, because it's the overlay lift. So fortunately, we're in a good time to get it taken care of, because it'd be even more expensive if I had to do some other type of treatment to the road.
What about public safety?
Yeah, there would have been a lot of public, because you got higher speed traffic on that road.
What about on our roads? That's what I'm saying, and that's not as relevant because we're not traveling as fast.
It's public
I
safety
have,
everywhere.
I'm not saying anybody's road's not relevant, but when it comes down to it, you have to go by speed, you gotta go by how much traffic, and it's the hard choice I have to make. I didn't wanna make it, but it doesn't get any easier for all the other ones that are far out, because, like I said, you're not the only one that get kicked back. Elm Street and Brigham have been waiting quite a bit of time to do it, and I haven't heard anything from them. And if you travel down any of those roads, which are right in front of the school and going down the hill,
I was
they're
down
pretty
that
bad.
road last night.
That's what I'm saying. Do them all with the extra monies we received and then do New Westminster.
Mr. Chair, we have two people looking to speak on the Google Meet. Glenn? You need to unmute yourself. Let me see if I can unmute you. I can't.
Can't hear you.
Glenn, you need to unmute yourself.
Get the next person before. then-
Sherry Richardson?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Sherry Richardson, 39 Dogwood Road. To follow up on Deb's point and I guess I'm struggling with why is New Westminster moved ahead of everybody else? I agree with Brigham and Elm, but to push it over Dogwood, it's ridiculous, and there's other ways to travel that direction. I think back in it might have been 2004, 2005, the bridge on New Westminster was out for a significant amount of time, and somehow I managed to get over to Muskogee to drop my daughter off at childcare, no problem, because there are other routes to take. Dogwood Road, Laurel Road, there is no other road to take. We have to drive it every single day. And I think that's being overlooked.
He unmuted himself.
Yep, I'm good now. Let's see.
Alright, Glenn.
First off, I just want to second, all Deb's thoughts there. It's just, I don't know, you can throw in thoughts about literally the front end work and stuff that.
Sir, can you
not
name and
uncommon
address for
every
the good of
house
the
on
order?
road.
Name and
But,
address, please, Glenn.
Yeah, name and address, Glenn Gregory over here on Geordie Lane.
What number, Geordie Lane? She's
11
gonna be
Geordie
writing
Lane.
the minutes, so.
Sure. Yeah, that's Glenn Gregory on 11 Geordie Lane. I did have a couple of questions. One I think was answered, and that was about the fair share monies. So I'm hearing that we don't know what that amount might be in the future, but we probably will get some fair share money to be thrown at the roads. Is that a fair assumption?
Nothing's guaranteed.
Nothing is guaranteed, but if the legislature so chose to address roads, namely rural roads again in the future, that would be a fair share assessment. See what I did there? Alright.
Yeah, not,
Yeah.
Dad jokes
I'm
are
not
not.
sure. If you were a betting man, would you consider that, a good bet?
I
That we
am-
would get monies in the future?
I wouldn't take that, I wouldn't state anything, I wouldn't take that bet. Not because I
Okay.
don't believe it will happen, but because I don't want to say anything that ends up not being true in the future.
Okay, fair enough. And the other question was for you, Travis. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, in previous meetings, since the development was done in sections, some part of the roads, I want to talk to Jody first. Some parts of the road were done at different times, right? They put up houses, they do some road, put up more houses, do some more road. And some of those sections are in decent shape. And I believe that at one point you said we might not need a full reclamation on some of the sections of, for example, Geordie. Is that still true? And if it is it reflected in the cost estimates that you do have in the plan out there?
I have, Geordie Lane, prior ones I had it with a chip seal and a reclaim. I'm hoping that I could still do the chip seal, but I put it in as a full reclaim.
Okay.
I assess everything at the time of, I mean, you're 3 years out, you see what happens in a year. It's my best, it's a proposed plan, it's nothing's etched in stone, and we do our best to try to give you everything we can of what it is, but obviously the costs, and this winter was really soft, and you can see how bad roads went all around us in other towns. I mean, it's crazy the amount of patchwork other towns, including ourselves, have to do.
Yeah. Has ever been, to determine priorities of one road over another? Is it, do we keep track of labor hours and patch material to, for instance, make the ones that, the roads that cost the town the most, to have them a higher priority than other roads for, I'll throw out Westminster again. But if we're spending more dollars in labor hours, fixing Dogwood, Geordie, Laurel than we do on Westminster, would we not be money to address that sooner?
We probably really don't want to look at how much money, because I spent $20,000 in a patch repair on New Westminster to get us through the winter, plus details every time I have to go out there. So if you want to add details and the amount of patch that we've had to put to just New Westminster Road,
Yeah,
I'll do any other road in town.
okay. And I think that's all I have for now, thank you.
Before we have Deb speak for a second time, does anyone want to speak on a portion of the plan that is not Dogwood, Geordie, Laurel?
No,
I do.
but everybody's here for Dogwood. You kidding?
Oh, we're open session, are we open for that?
That's up to the chair.
Okay.
I have one thing with Pitcherville Road. I saw one of the comments, and that sections of road that have the chip seal on them, that's what it is. It's a chip seal. It's the same thing I put on Morgan on the other side of 68. It's I didn't reclaim the road. It could take a shim and a chip seal, and that's what I did, and that's how I was able to do all of Pitcherville, Birchen, and Cross. So there is no, reclaiming and putting smooth pavement down. That will smoothen out. The problem is it doesn't have as much traffic as a high traffic road to really push it down, but it will go down once it heats up. But it's a very good preventative maintenance for a road. It's a good 10 years or more that it lasts. So, but it allowed us to finish Pitcherville Road.
Travis, Peter Walker, I have a question for you on, any road in town, really. Is there a formula from the state or any kind of formula when it comes to repaving roads, you know, speed versus residents on the road versus outside traffic coming through town? When it comes to.
You have different grades of pavement showing, depending on the weight that's on the road. You know, and certain pavement works well. Like 68 pavement, you're not gonna be using on the Westminster or something like that. It doesn't have a high, heavy traffic as Route 68 does.
Okay.
Or like say a Pitcherville, it's not gonna have Pitcherville grade of pavement of, you know, that Route 68 does. There's, I believe, three different grades of pavement. And what's unfortunate, and I don't like to hear it, is that, and I've seen it, I've been to classes, you can see it after the roads are paved, is that they don't stay black long. And that's because they're all trying to be environmentally friendly, so the pavement's nowhere near what it used to be.
No.
And you can see after a road is paved, other than like Gardner Road, because it was used with a rubber base pavement. But you can see like Worcester Road, that grade real fast. And that means that the roads they're degrading, they're not lasting as long as they would normally last. A road, it could be easy 10 years. Now you're lucky you get maybe 8 before you have to start doing anything. And unfortunately, you know, we're worried about getting to roads, but you know, the roads I did last year and the roads I did prior to that, if we don't do anything to them, they're gonna fall apart. And we're really losing money. But the fact of the matter is we don't even have money to do the roads, no matter preventative maintenance. And yeah, I'd love to see all the roads done, and then what we do is we're not sitting here reclaiming all the time we go to do a job. It's a preventative maintenance, and I try to show people that when we do our yearly, you know, we show what we did in that year, and I show if we did do preventative maintenance, I show the cost of what we did. Might have been a mile of road, and then it shows, oh, we did preventative maintenance, we did 3 miles of road, and say the preventative maintenance was $50,000, but it took us $500,000 to do 1 mile of road, because I had to reclaim it and everything else. So I'm trying to show people that, you know, it's important between crack sealing, doing a fog seal, do something like that, because that adds 5 years, that could add 7 years. That chip seal that we put on the ground, that I've seen it go 10. I've seen it go more than that because it was on Morgan Road, and I actually applied a shim, and then I applied it again to the piece of Morgan between 68 and the tracks, because it held up very well, and that didn't cost the town much. And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yep.
But I'm just so far behind, and I got into that taking the position, you know, and I'm doing my best, but it really comes down to money. But everything's going up, and I cringed when I heard it was going up to $100 a ton in place. I mean, when it started, it was $62 a ton applied in place. Now they're talking 100 7 years later.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate what you do. You're doing the best you can with the funds you're given. So back to the formula thing. I was just curious for myself and the people in the audience, is there a formula you use to base priority on streets being paved? As far as people traveling the road, amount of residents on the road, emergencies or accidents on the road, that makes you prioritize one road over another?
It's not simple.
So obviously I look at road traffic counts.
Okay.
Then I look at how many complaints I get, how many times we gotta be on that road patching it. And, you know, and what we're able to do to it. Because we've had so much, I mean, I did it to New Templeton, I in that hilly area, and that held up for maybe 3 years. We put some hot mix, and we kind of just smeared it on the road in the gullies to bring the road back, so it wasn't so bad, you know, and that allowed us to move on. But that's
Yeah.
not an overlay on
Right.
and that's doing that, that's actually just the pavement itself. What's hard with an overlay, which people might not understand, is that, they overlay that over the existing pavement that's there. So, in the midst of that, a lot of times where you see that pavement comes apart, it's right where all the trucks are loading the paver, because they're taking up all the tap that you put down prior to putting the asphalt down. So, you know, unfortunately, it's this bitter game that we play. I walk behind the paver every time that we pave anything in Hubbardston to make sure it's getting done correctly, and I see it, you know, and unfortunately, you can't really do anything about it, and it's hard. They say New England is the worst area to have paved. So, you know, it's a bitter game, and it's not a fun game, I tell you.
Thank you.
We have another question here. Luke? All right.
Hello, Luke Martin, 43 Dogwood North. I was just curious, Travis, do you consider, to go back to what Mr. Richardson said about alternate routes when you pick what road comes first? Because again, with
Absolutely.
majority of the roads that we're talking about, there's only the one route everyone can take to and from wherever it is they're going, traveled multiple times a day.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, we plow the roads. We understand them. We don't like to bounce around them. And believe it or not, Dogwoods is my route. So I bounce up and down that route every time I gotta plow it. And I've been putting a small truck in there just so I wouldn't level the road with my truck. You know, a lot goes into it. You know, I let the small truck in there, he goes in and plows, and then I come in and I treat. You know, every once in a while, if you see me in there, it's because either that I don't have the small truck or I gotta move a large amount of snow. So, usually I can do Giordi to a certain point, till about Glenn's place. Then I pick up and float all the way through there, trying to keep whatever pavement's there, including on Dogwood North. Unfortunately, this year I had to plow that route, because our small truck went down. So, yeah, I feel your pain. Either way, you know, I don't do it every day, but multiple times in a storm, we try our best with the patch that we use. We don't use just a standard cold patch. We use a permanent patch that we actually use in a hot box throughout the winter, which we used to use a conventional patch that came out all the time. The patch, like anything in wintertime, it's hard. You're not gonna get the best quality out of it because you could have, you know, some ice in there, whatever it may be, depending on the type of year it is. But we're doing our best trying to keep the students people. You know, I know at one time we put millings down, and at that time it was a bitter taste in some people's mouth, but unfortunately that's what the town had, and at that time we didn't have many millings. Going with the new West Route 62 project last year, which gave us tremendous amount of millings, and then now when we do New Westminster, the town will be getting the millings then also. We did, just to show you, and you can drive down, we did Gardner Cutoff. Gardner Road Cutoff, we were never gonna get to that road. There's so many other roads, so we did that road. Drive it, it's very nice, because we put a good 6 inches or more down on the road. And you put it down when it's warm, so it's able to compact, and are you gonna get some off of it? Absolutely, but are you getting a lot off of your road deteriorating, falling apart, and the patch and the gravel that comes out of the road? Yes, you are. So, we could put that Band-Aid on there and make that almost 100% better than what it is. I suggest that you take a ride down. We did it to Gardner Road Cutoff, we did it to Greenville Cutoff. We had done it to Old Colony down near the pond. You would have thought we paved that.
Are you able to do that this year though, Travis, with the budget or no?
But that's the thing, it doesn't cost me anything but man.
They get paid
Okay.
anyways, they're at work, so.
So
whether we get it
then,
on,
can
yeah.
we do that? Like,
Put it this
Make
way,
it
we
happen.
do it to Dogwood South, and they call us every once in a while for one pothole here, one pothole there. Then we'll come and we'll sit there and we'll add more material there, and then, because that's a low spot, so we do that. And we got it to the point now where it's actually pretty low. I mean, they used to call us every day, so we don't get that, but they didn't care that we had them put down on it, and that's what we did. So it's just coming together saying, yeah, we want that, and understand that you're gonna have, it's
say
not,
you want it.
it's not hazardous. I mean, I'm not saying eat it.
Until
I'm
we
saying
can
the
get
fact
you
of the
paid.
matter is that they.
You're not coming off the, Travis, if they get this done, are they coming off the plan though for a
No.
full?
No,
No.
Well,
they're not coming off the plan.
when they did it the first time.
It wasn't enough.
It was,
It wasn't enough.
It ruined and made it worse.
It wasn't,
They didn't have the roller, I don't believe
Yeah.
then, but there was a lot of flat tires that came out of there.
because it wasn't enough.
Because of the millings. But one question I was wondering is, if the emails were submitted by the deadline and you didn't receive them, what was the point of the resident feedback?
We just didn't receive
They
yours.
did receive them.
Just hers?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
mine?
we received, we got all your emails. This isn't,
Because I
And-
received an email from Tony
yeah, if it
acknowledging
didn't
a few
get
days
to
before the
the
deadline,
right
but,
spot.
but if
Let
there's
me make
no,
sure I
if you
could've
don't want the
misspoke.
resident feedback, we've patiently come several years in many numbers expressing our concerns about our safety, about the money you're spending. Yes, they do hot patch, and they'll spend a couple days there, and then it rains, and it washes us away. It's a waste. We don't like wasting it either.
But that's not what he's.
We're just concerned because attempts that they have made in the past have made it worse. We cannot take that chance, obviously. Whatever we could do, honestly, I don't even know if milling that road would be better
Have you-
on the
have
hill
you-
in part of Jordan.
Anybody driven down any of those roads that he talked about, like the Gardner cutoff or any of those little roads?
No.
You guys should really go. What was done to your road originally, Travis even said he didn't have enough, it was the wrong time of year, it didn't get packed correctly, so it spread.
Well,
And
then
it didn't
made
work.
like the,
Yeah, it didn't work. But now he has, like if, I don't know if anyone's been down DPW, they have pounds of it.
So let's ask Travis if he has enough to do
Yeah.
what they need done.
Travis, do you have enough to do their roads with that this summer?
So, with doing New Westminster with the mill, I will have plenty of milling. It's just having someone in the grader to be able to lay it out, because, the one I had for a grader operator has left this year. Not saying we can't do it, but, like I said, it's the way we have a process of doing it. And it's not perfect, but I'll tell you what, once it's down and when we go to do your road, all that gets pulverized and put into the base, and you have such a nicer base than what you have. A lot of the roads, like Geordie on both ends, Geordie in the middle, Geordie on the end where Glen is, and down in Laurel, or where Dogwood stops and meets Laurel through there, they didn't have great base through there. That's why they're all crumbling and falling apart. That's why some sections are good and some sections aren't. So by adding this and having it in when they go to pulverize it, it adds into the structure of the road, which helps out tremendously. So, like I said, sit and fill patches all day long, or we can sit there and put this on there. Are you gonna have some black knurled of tire around? Yep, you're gonna. But we were having that now in probably bigger chunks because we pull them out of the road. So, I would suggest to just drive down those roads and see. They've helped the town out quite a bit, because we put them down a good 6 inches or more. And they've actually crowned roads, so now the water gets off, it doesn't sit in them. What we had a problem with your road was that we made it smooth, and then it became a washboard because people were flying up and down it. And then it's exactly what it did, it whooped the road out. So then we had to come back, and then by that time, we scraped down what little we had there, so it didn't turn into anything. So, we're just saying that we do have a process of doing it. We do lay it down, we do rake it out, we do spray it, and we do roll it. So, it does come out very nice. And honestly, I used to have water issues over on Garden Cutoff. Go take a look at that road. That came out very.
On your way home, everyone drive
No,
down
I'm-
Gardner Cutoff. You all are going that way
As
anyway.
long as we could stay on in the plan.
Yeah, you're not-
Anything would help.
It was
We
not
would,
taken off the plan.
Francois?
Francois Steiger?
It's not being moved off the plan. Just because I'm putting this on, it's not. It's being able to help smoothen it out until we can get it. That's what it is. I mean, this is what the town has. This is what the town has at their fingertips to do, and it doesn't cost the taxpayer any money other than the hourly labor of people putting it on.
well, hopefully it'll hold, save and patch and
Well,
labor
the
later.
problem is, they weren't able to do, I'm sorry, Francois.
No, that's all right,
Um,
please.
They weren't able to complete the job when they were there last time, so why do it I don't understand. You either have enough material to do the whole job or don't do it at all. Cause it's gonna start wearing out because of the other part's crappy too. So, I mean, with what
Because
they.
what we did was, at the time, 'cause we only had a certain amount, because we did the worst area. We didn't do everywhere in there, we just did the worst area of what was there.
Okay.
Actually, some of the patches, some of the millings that we put down, if you looked at it, without any snow or anything, it's actually still stuck to the old paper.
Do we have enough millings at this time to successfully do,
Well, it won't be at this time, you do it in the summertime.
well, in the
So
summertime?
keep that in mind.
After New
Yes.
Westminster gets
Yes,
ground,
yes.
they will have enough to completely do their area.
Millings.
Milling.
Yeah.
I'm not, like I said, it would only be the areas that are really bad, I'm not
Yeah.
putting it
Oh,
on it.
yeah.
and-
So it is.
Until, that's what he said.
I'm
they-
coming, I'm driving through there tomorrow again, so I
we-
haven't.
Hold on to your hat.
Alright, everybody,
Seriously.
Francois has a
Yeah,
comment.
poor Francis.
No,
Go ahead.
thank you. First of all, Francois Steiger, 65 Hillville Road. I lived on Hillville Road, in the early 20s, I'm sorry, in the early 2000s.
Really?
In the early,
Look good.
early 2000s when it probably looked as bad or maybe even worse than Dogwood was, and I really sympathize with what you're going through. For me, this is a program management issue, and I think Travis is trying to do his best. He's coming up with an alternative solution, and I understand this is probably great that we are venting and getting our frustrations out. My suggestion is that as the board looks at this here, that we request from Travis a formal proposal that looks at this alternative and it takes into account the projected timeline for the summer to do this here, as well as guaranteeing that there is no, that it will not take Dogwood Lane, Dogwood Road?
Yeah.
Dogwood Road off the list. Come back with a proposal in a month and just make sure that it is something that can be presented. I mean, us talking about this here, it's great. I do project management and program management a lot, and we get entangled in these discussions, and 6 weeks down the road, we still have the same issue. I think what we really need here is for Travis to come back with, I think he has a brilliant idea. Come back with, this is what I need, this is what the timeline that I needed, this is the weather that I will need in order to be able to do this down, and start putting this here as a project. Sort of put a bogey out there and work towards that. So my suggestion is that the board entitled Travis to come up with that plan, and then with that plan in hand to then present it to the population at large of these roads that are terribly affected by the dilemma that we have right now with budget funding and conditions of the road. Thank you.
Travis, how do you feel about that?
The whole thing was that I hadn't put anything down in there because I was told years ago that they didn't want anything of the millings in. So then I had put them in Dogwood South, and then I would see on the Facebook chats and everything that they were like, oh, I wish we could get some of that over there. And I'm like, well, you need to talk to the people over in Dogwood North that you live, because they're saying that they didn't want it. So I'm not saying, it's not gonna move you off the plan. It's not gonna move you, you're gonna still be in the same spot. I'm talking of putting a Band-Aid that's not gonna cost anything to the town to help smoothen out the situation until we can get to that point. Am I gonna have to come and probably fix it after a winter? Yeah, I'm gonna. It's like a dirt road at times, depending on how bad the plows get it, whatever it may be. But I'm saying that this is a patch that costs the town nothing other than manpower. It's not saying that we're not gonna pave you after we do this. It's not any of it. This is a means of what we're able to do fund-wise and everything else. That's it.
It is the best Band-Aid we can afford.
Yeah, well,
It's just, I don't know how else to say it, like, it's,
come back with a plan.
yeah.
And you know, I think you should probably direct Travis to come back with that plan.
What's wrong with his word?
I'm sorry?
You don't like his word?
No, it's not that, it's just you need to have something that
On
is
paper?
concrete and
So you can
memorialized,
see it
like a
on paper?
presentation that you can basically say, you can point to and be able to say, this is how it works.
Yeah.
And if there's any deviations that come out of this here, which can happen, I mean, for all intents and purposes, we can have the rainiest summer and it cannot be done. But at least you have something that you can point towards what can be done given these ideal conditions. And that's what you are asking the expert, who is Travis in this
Yeah.
particular case. And more importantly, to make sure that the individuals who live on this road can also point to and say, look, we see that the town is trying to address something for us, given the limited resources that we have.
Travis, can you please write something up with just maps, take a ride on it, note and dictate the parts of the road that would be best fixed, and we can bring this up again. I will email with a copy of that document to all of the Dogwood North residents that had written into the select board. Is that something you'd be able to come up with, or
It's not just Dogwood, it's Jordy,
Dogwood,
Yeah.
Jordy,
Laurel,
Laurel?
get them all in there.
Yeah, I understand
Take the
this
ride.
situation. I see it on some paper, I can put it on paper for you, that's
Yeah. I mean, things like, for example, how much milling you need, how much time you need, the type of weather conditions that you need, any other thing that needs to be taken into consideration. Put that down and make a presentation that hopefully, the board and the people here in Dogwood Lane can all say, yep, we agree to this here.
It's Travis.
I guess my only concern with that is, you know, Travis has such a small staff and he's very much a working super. I just wanna make sure that we don't bog him down.
Yeah.
So that he can probably do a really high level of that Francois, but I don't know if he's gonna do as detailed as I think what you're looking
Well,
for. I don't think he has the capacity.
He has the information. I think that if the way that this needs to be presented needs to be ironed out, I'm asking the TA here to come up with maybe some resource that he can help with on making this a doable and nice
Nate loves
presentation.
graphics.
I love graphics.
There we go. You've been assigned to that.
I don't think neither Travis or I are denying
Yeah.
the fact that we will write something up. I don't know if it'll be in a set of engineered plans.
No,
But-
that's
but
not
we
what
can-
we're.
Just something a little bit more formal.
Yeah, we can
Exactly.
definitely, let us look into it. I don't think we would need a vote or anything like that. Like,
Okay.
Travis, let's talk about it, and
Okay.
we'll aim to bring it back at a meeting in the future. The next meeting is on 3/18, March 18th. The meeting after that is on April 1st. So,
Really, it's April 1st?
yep. April Fool's Day.
We fooled you!
Yeah.
Joke's on you, good luck, Dogwood. No,
In the shredder.
Yeah, absolutely kidding.
Mills. But I
Me-
think if you could let the residents know if you do advise them of anything, of the plans or
I would
anything.
email.
Please also let them know that will still be on the plan. I think that'll be important
that
to
they're
know
not
that
coming
we will
off.
not be removed
No.
in lieu of the.
I would email anyone that emailed in, and please note that we did receive all of your emails. I packeted them up on the 27th at night, thinking, oh, there's not gonna be any more, and then there were a couple more. It's not any staff's fault, that's my fault, I PDF'd it a little bit early. All of your emails will be combined into the packet, and we will email you once we do have something written out. I appreciate you coming out here tonight. I don't think with the chair's approval, I don't think there's gonna be too much more we can really get out of this. So, Mr. Chair,
I'd just like to, point out for not just you folks here also, but for the people who might be listening and so forth. Travis put a hell of a lot of work into this list. It's not an arbitrary thing, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's not, nor is it easy, well, we'll just move this one here, because it just offsets everything. So that, I just don't want people thinking that this is just thrown together, cause I've been on the board for many years, and we never had for 1 year, a 2 year, a 5-year plan. All we had was lousy roads that had been ignored for years. And that's what's catching up to us, because we can't fix them all, and when we start fixing them, some of the people get shortchanged sort of, and then all of a sudden some of the roads that we just fixed need refixing. So that it's not an easy thing that, we're dealing with here, and he has really put a lot of time and effort in this, and so I just wanna make that clear and make sure Travis knows that, at least as a board and as the chair, I feel that it needs to be mentioned, okay? Because the other thing is, we're also dealing with things that we can't control, which can change things overnight, such as, oh, we're not getting the money from the state, or we're not getting what we thought we were gonna get. We had a lousy winter, we had too much rain, all of these things you can't possibly program into a plan, because you can't plan on it. And so we're asking him to deal with all stuff like that, so I just wanna make that clear, that how I feel about this, and we appreciate the work that he is doing, and also, we've also gotten very good comments through the winter about our particular roads, and I wanna pass that out and pass that on to you and your guys, Travis, cause you're doing a hell of a job. With that, I think we've done enough on this particular.
We do appreciate you listening to us,
Okay.
we do,
They're
and we've
working-
tried to be patient.
they're working a couple of employees down as well. Like,
Yeah.
that is not a fully staffed department, and they are going above and beyond, and it is greatly appreciated, but they are certainly not compensated to the fullest of the region, and they're not a fully staffed team, so.
So I want to thank everybody anyways for listening, and you know, like I said, it's a proposed plan that we put. 5 years is a lot to put out there. As you can see, a lot can change just in a year, and I'm not looking to see anything move. I'm looking hopefully just to move forward from this, and by putting the material down on Dogwoods, and Jordy's not moving anywhere from the plan. It's not the plan, it's just to help get us to that date.
Thank you.
Thanks, Travis, for your time tonight.
And on the positive side, if we ran into more money, we could likely move the plan up.
Cause the state's just handing it out.
Well, they are handing it out, but the wrong way.
Yeah, the wrong way.
Okay, so, we'll end the discussion on this item, and if that's all you folks are here for, feel free to leave or feel
Unless
free
you
to stay.
really wanna hang out with us, it's gonna be a fun night.
Yeah. But we'll pause for a moment as we.
Deb, I'll be down there tomorrow.
I'll put coffee on.
White Silverado.
You gotta come all the way down to the end.
I'm gonna go everywhere in there.
Have a good night. Carrie, you okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
did I not look okay?
No, I meant,
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
it's fine, it was minor, it was just a pain.
cause we jumped over you because you
Yes,
thought
I'm
we were gonna be
sorry.
late. As soon as we did that, you walked in, so I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
It's the fastest way to get you here.
And so, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I am looking for a vote of the select board to endorse this plan. I would also like the people watching at home, the select board, and Travis to know that the only reason we did this twice within a 6-month period is because we hadn't done it for a number of years during COVID and during transition. At this point, the 5-year road plan will be something that we talk about annually, and
You're gonna make us do this anyway.
annually.
Sorry, that's my bad, so, yeah, I appreciate a motion to approve the 2025-2029 road plan as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
Yes, opposed? Motion carried. My bad, sorry about that. Back to you now, Carrie. We're moving to item 4, ARPA funding discussion, Public Safety Building Committee. So we'll invite you to have a seat with us, or you can stay where you are, whatever you're comfortable.
Seeing that everyone here is involved.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'll stay with my peeps, no.
Okay. It's all yours. Go ahead, Carrie.
So we're kind of at a point here where we just can't keep just talking about doing this. We need to move forward to find some funds to get going on a couple of things. So, we know we kind of have passed over some of the ARPA funds here and there, so now we're getting down to, I think, 30. So we're here to talk about using those funds for what we need to do at this point. So, I'm gonna ask if you can help here, Heather, with some of
Sure.
the financial parts of this, that would be great.
Sure.
Okay.
So we met, what was it, a few weeks ago, Nate? It wasn't just last week, right? It was like 2 weeks ago.
No, it was a couple weeks ago, and
Yeah.
I have the meeting notes here too if we need.
So we met a few weeks ago, and one of the discussions came up is, what's the next steps? We had talked, Nate has had a little bit of movement, and a couple folks have been able to check out Jan's Auto Body. That was something that was on the docket a while ago, and that's the original use and purpose of the ARPA funds that we had appropriated. If you remember when they came, when it came before the ARPA committee, we had looked at it and said, okay, is this an idea for a feasibility study? Is this a property that could potentially work for us? There was some period of time, some miscommunication, we weren't really able to communicate, we thought that was then off the table. Since that period of time and since our committee has started meeting, Nate was able to connect with Jan, and they were able to set up some times to go out, check out the property, and start thinking about it potentially as a possible consideration. One of the things we had talked about and spent some time on was, because the town has already considered this property as potential, even if at the end of the day it doesn't work out, we still owe it to the people to look at the property and see, is this in fact feasible or is this not feasible? If it is feasible, then it's a great opportunity for us, and then we have our direction. If it's not feasible, then we can rule it out. One of the things we had talked about, 30,000 seems like a lot of money. I know Peter in other meetings, I think were one who mentioned, hey, we could really use that money elsewhere. But the
Keep
same,
the kids warm.
that's true, but at the same point, just to go for a design or anything like that is closer to $1 million
Right.
rather than 30,000. So in the grand scheme of things, 30 is a little bit of change compared to the larger number. And we owe it to the community to make sure we're looking at every possible conceivable option and trying to spend the town's money as wisely as humanly possible. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to put the $30,000 if the select board's on board, and this is a real key component. This is something we spent a lot of time talking about at that meeting, is making sure we paused at this juncture, made sure the select board was on board with this before we continue putting time and energy into this direction, also making sure that we were carrying out the will of the board. What we'd like to do though is to use that 30,000 towards a feasibility study and looking at Jan's Auto Body. We would ask very specific questions. We would use our experts, our police chief and our fire chief, and some of the members on the board who have experience, and those of us who don't, we'll just pick at additional things. I'm sure we'll pick up some small things, but really the field experts to say, okay, well, how many vehicles do we currently have and how would we fit them into this building? What size of the vehicles, how would that layout be? What would we have to do to potentially even add on just to get going? What would those what would the amount of work look like? What would those costs look like? So at the end of the day, we kind of have a little bit of a picture. A, does this building, would this ultimately work, the configuration? B, what is the additional pieces we'd have to add to this, and what would the potential cost point be? Because at some point, we wanna make sure we're not gonna expend more money than we would have expended with option B. But that way, regardless at the end of the day, whether this is the option, if it is, then we did a feasibility study, we said this is perfect, this works, you know, we've checked all the boxes, we've gone through all of our concerns were there. And if for some reason it doesn't, then we've done the same, we've said, okay, we've gone through, we've analyzed this entirely, and this isn't going to work, and we need option B. And part of that is so that when we go to the townspeople and we eventually do ask for funding, whether it's for the location Jan's Auto, or whether it's for the other location, we can successfully say, you know, we've looked at this option thoroughly, here's our backup information, we've done a feasibility study, we've ruled it out, here's why, or we've ruled it in, and here's why.
Question.
Chris, go ahead, Chris.
I guess my first question is, I'm a little confused why we're having this discussion. Didn't the ARPA committee and the select board allocate the funds for this particular purpose?
We did allocate the funds for this particular
How much
purpose.
did we allocate for this particular
We
purpose?
initially did
$60,000.
Okay, and how much is left of that?
So there's 30,000 because two reasons. Number one, for a period of time, there was a lengthy period of time, we were unable unfortunately to connect with Jan, and then we did get partial information back, and there was appraisals and so forth, et cetera, but it didn't look like it would work out, but further discussion, it looks like it's now a potential again. In the meantime, in doing that, I remember we had to cut some funds from ARPA projects in order to pay for some of the projects on Route 68, so we had taken from that 60 and reduced it down to 30.
So can you get this done for 30,000, or would you need additional funds to get it done?
Nate had checked into that?
I haven't gone far. So at that time, let's call it 2 meetings ago, the board had approved a laundry list of my suggestions with the $30,000 being left off. So that's why we're coming back. Well, the Public Safety Building Committee is coming back to get the approval of the board to either move forward looking into this or not. And if it is not going to be approved, that the Public Safety Building Committee look into the feasibility of, I believe it's 60 Gardner Road, then what should the Public Safety Building Committee be looking into? I asked that both chiefs be in attendance this evening. Fortunately, they had other items on tonight's agenda, so they showed up. If for any questions about looking into what their preferences would be, they unfortunately did not have the availability at the last meeting of the Public Safety Building Committee, but more or less, I, as town administrator, was hoping to have a conversation about guidance from the board, whether it be that we look into using this $30,000 at Jan's or what it is, because I would like to see us have plans of some sort within the next couple of years, whether it be at one spot or another. Because the facilities that the public safety officials are inhabiting right now are past deteriorating and are reaching a point of unsuitable nature.
So Nate, based on things you've looked at, do you anticipate that the $30,000 will get us some component, some amount of a feasibility study?
Some component, yes. A full-blown feasibility study with a cost estimate, no.
No, but it could theoretically get us a partial, at least to get us through our basic questions. Will it fit our vehicles? What would we have to do to add on? And any other questions the chiefs may have with regards to, is this a realistic opportunity for
The
us?
company I had spoken to, it was actually quite funny. Once they looked into how much money I had, that's how much money it was. So.
Why did you tell them how much you had?
I didn't, they looked in the.
So, yes, KP, we believe that we can get
So
something.
for $30,000, we can get something that's gonna tell us this is a feasible solution, and if we can move forward with it, or it's not gonna work for what we wanna do, it's off the table.
That is the hope.
And that's gonna cost us
And we've allocated $60,000 of that from the original ARPA disbursement, and we've already dipped into that to the tune of $30,000, which is why it's down to $30,000.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Professor Steiger, that's not what I heard. What I heard was as part of the, and maybe I got it incorrect, but you did indicate that some of that money actually went to pay for other things for the town, right?
Well, I think that's what KP means by dipped into,
Yeah,
we
we dipped into it for-
reappropriated it.
Okay, but not for the purposes of the public
Correct.
safety.
Correct.
Let's make sure that that's clear.
The only allocated purpose, and I don't quote me on this, I wanna say $800 for a appraisal
Yeah.
of the property, in which you all were received at this point last year.
Very good, that's all I got.
May I speak?
Go.
Alright, I appreciate what you guys do on the committee, but as far as I'm concerned, this is my personal feeling, it's a $30,000 waste on that property in that building. When we have 5 acres right across the street, it costs you more money to rehab a building than it does to build new, okay? So if you wanna spend $30,000 and have somebody tell you, well, this is what we're gonna do, it's probably too short. It's just cheaper to build new than it is to rehab. Okay, and we don't know what's in the ground over there. I mean, there's been wrecked cars and trucks and stuff on that property forever. So unless we test the soil, which is gonna be another $30,000, I mean, you can't really do a complete feasibility, am I correct?
We had,
It
didn't,
is my hope that I can work with Jan, if that is the direction we hope to go, to apply for a brownfields study of his own property. That would have to come from the resident. We couldn't apply on behalf of the resident for.
Well, right, cause we don't own the property.
Because we don't own the property.
Right. So that's my feeling. I just, we've got the acreage across the street. That building is about 5 feet below the road. You know, you got a truck now you got trucks coming up a hill to get out of there, and then they gotta, you know, obviously, maybe they're gonna put lights out there, I don't know. That's just my feeling, so.
So we did have a lot of conversation around that, Peter, last meeting, and one of the things, and I was probably one of the ones who pushed for it the most, which is when you get to the ballot and you get to the point where you're actually looking for the funds,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to answer the residents, well,
Right.
why didn't you look at that property?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? Are you sure it wasn't feasible? So even if that's the ultimate conclusion, that it's less costly to build new, it's, you know, a better suited position, whatever, you know, we've now put this on the table and residents are gonna say, hey, you said that was a possible option 4 years ago, why didn't you further look into it? So regardless, this takes us once and for all, right, a rule in or a rule out option, and it says we've done our due diligence to look at all possible alternatives before we start bringing a very large price tag.
So you've hired a professional to tell you whether you can or you can't, and then you bring it to the people.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then it
I'm all
backs,
right with that.
it's like making a case and backing it up, right? And we focus on the specific
Yeah.
questions the chiefs have, because they're the ones who know their stuff the best, and they
Could I-
know their field.
Can I interrupt you and ask them
Absolutely.
to chime in? Ryan, Bob, how do you feel about all of this?
The truth, I wanna hear the truth.
Please, I
I mean, I'm mixed on it because.
Mixed or nixed?
Mixed
Okay.
emotions, because, one, we can make almost anything work. But, you know, I'm no expert when it comes to construction and everything, and I know that building, I think, has some things with it, I won't say exactly, but I think there's some issues that need to be addressed by somebody who knows. And I didn't do the tour last time, but I did it a few years ago, and I believe it was Bill Murray at that time was like, yeah, this could be potentially something, but it would be, you'd be looking at, you know, close to 2 million, maybe $2.25 million to go into it to make it work. Now, he has some, you know, expertise in that field. I don't know what that would be now, but does that make sense to put, if it's $3 million or something like that, into a building that's 20 years old now? I don't know, you know, so those are the things that I don't. The grade is definitely an issue, there isn't enough apparatus bays there, but those are all things that can be addressed, but with additional funds. And then it doesn't solve your police station problem, that building. There's no way that we would have to utilize that house. If we use the house for our day room, the kitchen, bunk rooms, then we wouldn't have to duplicate that in the other building, so. But yeah, I believe Chief Kuchar said that you can't utilize, cause that was one of the things, we did the tour that time, and it was probably 2019, I'd say, and it had potential, and there was a lot of questions, but then they're like, oh, and we could put the police in this house here, and it's like, there's no way there's room for both of us there without adding on additional buildings, so.
So, can I ask a question?
I wanna hear Chief though, the other chief. Sorry,
So
not to cut you off, just.
I have concerns about how the police department would fit into the layout that's there. Like Chief Hayes said, if we were gonna say repurpose the house for a police station, state regulations, I can guarantee, it's probably not, you just can't take that house and use it. You know, Templeton just went through this with their police station, they just redid it. It was a existing police station that they redid, and I don't know how much it cost, I don't wanna throw out a number that's not correct, but you know, if you're talking $3 million of a renovation possibly for a fire station, you're probably talking at least that, maybe $5 million to do the police station part. So you have the fire station, the police station. So now you're like $8 million probably. You know, obviously building new, you're probably, you know, closer to 15, who knows, depending on what we would need for actual, you know, what we actually need to put into the building. And I'm not up to snuff on the state regulations to say, oh, you have to put this in there, you have to put that in there. I know what a police station needs, I know what we need for our police station to just function. Obviously, we're getting by with what we have now, and it's far from adequate, but, you know, the study is probably needed to at least give us an idea.
And it's far from code for what it would be for a
Correct.
police station. Cause it wasn't meant to, this is.
You know, I just went to Leominster and I did a tour of their brand new police station, it was $32 million.
Good luck.
I know that's not something we'd be building, and maybe one of their units that they had, like their specialized units, that amount of room, like, we could get by with this, you know?
We'd be happy with the little corner.
But when you start talking about adding cells and things like that, and the way things need to be set up when you're building a new police station,
So,
you're running into a lot of cost.
Mr. Chair.
Hold on.
I'm letting these all
Okay,
speak
fine,
before
no.
I open my big fat mouth, cause I'm
Alright.
gonna let it rip.
Say, all right, did you have?
Is there any way that we could potentially explore if $30,000 would cover a cost analysis of one property versus the other? Like what it would cost to rehab a building, get it to a point where it's suitable versus looking for a pre-made plan, doing the shovel-ready work and going from there? That sounds like something that would be in that ballpark either way. And at that point, we're doing our due diligence to a parcel that was pointed out by previous administrators and previous teams and granted funds by ARPA, and taking, albeit one small step forward on another parcel.
I think we still.
Hold
Sorry.
on.
Sorry, Jeff.
Carrie, you haven't?
Are we
Oh, no,
still
Mike,
at-
I mean, Mike first,
Yes,
then you,
I
okay.
think he should talk to what the chiefs have been talking
Go
about
ahead,
a little bit,
Mike.
since he's kind of our resident engineer, like.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road, and also a member of the Public Safety Building Committee. I think we need to frame this on both ends of the spectrum. One, do nothing, which is the status quo, and I think we're gonna fail, and the longer we wait to act, the failure will be more extreme. And then at the other extreme is to start fresh, completely new, meet all codes and desires and whatnot. That one there has another piece of baggage, is that we probably can't pay for that. So, somewhere in the middle is some combination of something, and after, without having gone into Jan's, I had all the concerns that I hear about, well, we don't know what's there. Well, there's a process for that. It's called a Phase 1 environmental study on that. And I think the town administrator offered that we're working with the owner to potentially do that. That would happen, and I think Heather brought up, there might be an issue of who can pay for that and how. Well, just leave that part out for now. It would be done one way or another, regardless of the mechanism to get there. After going into Jan's, I believe that it should be looked at further, that we do not have enough information to go one way or the other. It certainly, I don't believe, can meet both of the chief's requirements, so we would have to figure out, say, let's just say for the police, there's gonna have to be something else to get there. However, the fundamental structure has a lot of potential that I was not aware of. And having looked at some of the details, like some of the structural details, it looks like it has some capabilities, but the devil's in the details. So the chief had, you know, hey, you gotta be this high so you can open up a vehicle and work on it inside. And no one, I don't believe anyone's trying to say that that facility has the right number of bays or the right length of bays. However, it has potential to be modified. Now, I've heard many comments about, well, it's cheaper to build new than to renovate. Well, we don't know, because we don't know how much renovation is required or may be required. Therefore, we don't have enough information at this time. Now, I know this is gonna be kind of doubling back, but I'm not a big fan of studies, because you pay for them and you gotta craft a very specific scope so you get what you need, and I'm not sure we know exactly what that is right now. If you just tell a architect engineer firm to go study it, they'll study it, and I'm not sure. Right, and exactly, like the town administrator said. Therefore, you gotta control it, and you may wanna phase it, but with 30,000, that ain't gonna get you very far.
No.
And I think there's gotta be an overarching strategy, also referred to by the town administrator, that, hey, we've got to, we can't continue with the status quo, because it's gonna be an emergency and be very expensive at that point, and maybe additional liability. So you're gonna have to get a design. So we're gonna have to somehow or other set aside funding for a real design. Concurrently, you need to look at what we need to get there to move beyond a new site versus utilizing what's already out there. So I think we don't have enough information to really make a strong recommendation at this time, is the way I've looked at it, hearing all the comments and making the visits.
But
Thank
to
you,
get
Mr.
that
Chair.
information, is it a question of, are we spending good money after bad?
That's what I don't wanna see, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think,
Oh,
go ahead.
no, sure.
Yep.
I just, like this discussion right now, this is what we're doing, right? Circle, circle,
Mhm,
circle,
mhm.
circle. What if, is it this, is it that? I mean, we can't move forward at this point. We can't even have more meetings because we've gone to tons of firehouses, looked around, we've talked to the chiefs, we kind of all know what needs to be in this building, but now we're kind of ready to move on that, and we either have to go and get more money to do a full feasibility study of the property, or try to do this, and maybe potentially there is something there. I mean, I'm not positive, Peter, that it is actually more expensive because this building is really, things he did there, he did well. There is plenty of space for offices and overnights and.
For the fire department.
Yes, but I still think there's a way to get the police in there without.
In that building?
Well, no, I mean, you
On the
still have
property,
to
you
do
mean.
on the property, yes.
So another building, a new building.
Well, not necessarily, I mean, if we do prefab, depends on where the costs come in, but that, isn't
Okay.
that what our job is, to figure out
Right.
what those other costs
Right,
will
you
be,
could drop a
so that
modular unit
we
in there
keep the
tomorrow,
money
right.
down, right. So, I mean, that's part of what we're doing.
Correct.
So, we can either sit at our meetings and just keep talking, or we can come and say to you guys, look, this is where we wanna be at, this is the money, and this is what we're gonna use it for, so.
Francois?
Francois Steiger, 65 Dealville Road. First of all, I commend the work that you've done thus far. I've been involved with this here from very early on. As a matter of fact, when we had the very first site visit there, I participated in this here. And this idea, which is the one of utilizing 60 Gardner Road as a potential site for a public safety building, I thought was a very good starting point. Main reason is that there is a structure. I'm not saying that it is a structure that you can just move in, put fire trucks in, voila, all you have to do is get the donation to run a fire station. It is a 5 acre piece property. It has good bones. It is interesting, and in the last discussion that took place by your committee, that there was an interesting comment that was made, I don't know by whom, but I think it was your former fire chief, that it is very likely that a steel building probably would be utilized as the model for which a new building would be built anyway. They last quite a long time, even though this building has been put up for quite a long time. It has incredibly strong bones. I've been inside many times and I've seen it. Currently has 5 bays. I agree, this is not a place where you can put a fire department in and a police station right there. The acreage, however, does exist. There is water in the place. Does it have a heating system? It has an waste oil fire heating system, but that's not what you're going to be using. And so I think we got to take some of the blinders off when we look at this here. And the individuals who are here, and even myself, when I look at this here, I said, I'm not the expert here. I think somebody who is an expert is probably the fire chief, the police chief, who say, this is what we need. Mm-hmm. And then you have individuals, and I would say that, for example, Bill Murray, who has done a lot of this here, is probably another person who can chime in. One thing to keep in mind here is that prevailing wages to build a new structure from the very beginning to where it is even at this point in time at 60 Gardner Road would put the price for the town at a much, much higher price or cost, I should say, than what is actually being negotiated potentially for that site. And I'm not saying that should judge what you're looking at, because there's other factors that need to be included in here. The possibility of expanding that building, and by, say, for example, putting lean-tos in the back and putting additional foundations so that you can extend the bays even further and potentially put trucks one behind the other, has been discussed and is certainly a potential that can be done at that site. There is a biggest issue right now, which is I think the biggest stumbling block, which is, is there any hazardous waste there? And that is something that can be addressed. Can be addressed by doing a study. This first study needs to be done is have somebody out there. Same thing that we did with Pitcherville Road when we were looking at the land where the firing range took place. And the study basically said, hey, yep, we got lead in the ground, so now we have to do some remediation. You have to do exactly the same over there. I understand that the study is not something that the town would do at its cost, but there are brownfield funds that potentially can be leveraged by the owner at that location in order to be able to come back and assert whether or not there is or there is not any hazardous material. Once you have that, then you know what the next steps are. And if it is, say, for example, that can be potentially mitigated, in addition to that study, I think it makes sense for somebody with enough expertise to be able to say, Fire Chief, what is it that you need? I have 6 trucks or 10 trucks or whatever that is, plus an ambulance, etc. Police Chief, what is it that you ideally need? Can we leverage the property that is next door, potentially raise it, and put a police station there? What would that cost be? So if you now start looking at all of those factors in, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's gonna come back and say, this is gonna cost you X, and compare that with standard cost of building a new public safety building for the town, which is gonna be Y. And we know that with not only prevailing wages, but with the cost of these buildings going higher and higher on a year-by-year basis, every time we are waiting another year for this here, it's just gonna go up by leaps and bounds.
Yep.
So I think the time for us to do at least an analysis and see the feasibility of this place and what it potentially would cost to bring it up to par is certainly something that is money well spent. One last item that I did wanna discuss here, and that is I discussed this here with Nate. There is a very interesting component to all of this here. This is a 5-acre lot that has access to 3-phase electricity. It's one of the very, very few lots on 68 that is ideally, potentially down the road, suited for battery energy storage systems. As you know, the planning board, we're still working on trying to make sure that we can get that bylaw in. If that were to be the case, if you really think about this here, the whole lot in the back where you have the additional terrain could potentially be a battery energy storage system location. The interesting component that comes along with this here is that you have a fire station in front of it, and more importantly though is there is payment in lieu of taxes plus the rent that sometimes, that oftentimes places like National Grid would actually pay, which very interestingly come in to potentially subsidize the overall cost of this here. And that's why I think this is a very attractive proposition that we may want to consider, not only from the overall cost of how do you build this here and the overall longevity of a project like this here, but how do you pay for this here? As we all know, the town of Hubbardston is not cash rich. And I'm sure that the TA will have some more information on that coming into the future. So any possibility where you can find ways or alternative ways to pay for this here is certainly something that our town needs to take a look at.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Is it my turn yet?
Go ahead.
Okay, alright, let's split this rip. So, I actually toured the first time when we went with you and, a whole group of people.
Yep.
And I've been in that building a few times with Jan prior to that for other purposes. There was actually originally 3 potential places that Ryan was eyeballing, that was one of them. And then there was Breezy Hill and then the place up here on the corners of 62 and 68 to be possible alternatives after the site kind of fell apart with those fancy drawings that weren't ever gonna fly. So I have some reservations. First of all, I really wanna see what's in the ground before we go forward with spending $1. Like that, I think is gonna be problem number 1. If we don't know, then we're gonna start spending money, and yeah, I know there's ways to remedy it, but there's ways of remedying lot 57. How far have we gotten on that? We haven't. So I think that needs to be addressed first and foremost before we spend any of this money. I do agree we can't put a pin in this property until we look at it further. My personal 2 cents is I think we're gonna spend more money in the long run on something that will never be proper or never be truly suitable for either fire or police. After walking the property originally and seeing and knowing what the police and fire have. That being said, we don't have a property to go to either way, and I don't know how to remedy that anytime soon. I don't wanna spend any money until we know what cleaning up that land is gonna be, cause that has been a garage since I can remember. Like, I was a kid on the bus, and I think it was like Roberto's at the
Roberto's,
time. And like, so it's always been a garage area, so I don't know how, and I'm not saying it was Jan, I mean, there's been multiple owners, it's, God only knows. And I don't know how to get from here to there with 30 grand, because there's no way to do it. But we've done things like this before where we have kept trying to renovate something and renovate it to death when we could've just built a new building, and in the long run, in the beginning, it would have been more expensive, but it would have saved us money, cause now we're still fixing an old, outdated building. And as for the phase 3, the other property is not that far from the phase 3, so it could come down a little ways. Granted, that would probably be a big pain in the ass, but the phase 3 ends right there on the corner of High Street and Ragged Hill, and the town property is not that much further.
Well,
But it doesn't go there yet.
It's not there.
Correct.
That is a fact.
But we don't own either of, well, we own one, we don't own the other, and I don't know where that's gonna go.
The three-phase electricity actually, terminates at High Street.
High Street, yes, that's what I just said.
And then goes down High Street, interestingly enough, and then goes into the
Does that make
center of
sense?
town.
Yeah.
And utilities are notorious for not expanding infrastructure unless it's actually totally, completely needed.
Yeah.
And taking and leveraging what is available. You have a fair point, I'm just,
Yeah.
wanna point out a fact there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're gonna tell you no if you wanna build a public safety building, they're not gonna run 3-phase to it, right? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not that I believe the fire department or the police require 3-phase.
Correct.
It's
They're
just
not-
it's just that a battery energy storage system
Oh,
location.
It could have revenue.
Would require 3-phase electricity. And so
Right.
that's one of the reasons that the bylaw was written in the way it was, which
Mhm.
was basically it has to be in a commercial zone and it has to be in the area where 3-phase electricity is available.
So how long would it take to do that study on the ground?
The brownfields?
Yes,
It
or
all depends
whatever.
on when there's a grant application thing open, it depends if the,
Well,
And you're
Jan has
relying
to do
on
one
Jan.
regardless if he's gonna sell
Yeah,
that
you gotta
property,
do a
correct?
32E
At
for
his
2 or
expense.
3,000, right?
That's what I'm asking. It's at his, well, cause he's the seller.
that was our, let me put it this way, that was our understanding, but none of us are experts in the field of selling, commercial property.
Would that
Well,
have to be
I'm-
done at his expense, as far as you know?
That's
He
what we
has to do that
understand.
no matter what. If he
Yep.
puts the property on the market, he has to do something to that unless he's gonna resell it, but anybody who's gonna purchase that
Is
is
gonna
gonna
wanna
want
see
that information no matter what.
Show me the results.
So it's,
Yeah, can we ask him for that is my question.
Yeah.
To get that done like sooner rather than later so we can move forward.
but it's,
That's my
in-
personal request.
sorry,
But, no, you're
I mean,
fine.
we're relying on him
Mhm.
to get this done or give him help with a grant person or somebody to be able to fill this out. So that's the other factor is,
Well, that's to
He's in-
remediate it.
No, he's
Right?
not on site anymore,
There's
right?
the,
Right.
phase 1 is just a study.
He's already gone home, back to Iceland.
He said it
What's
was back in
the-
May.
what does the
He's back
study
and forth.
cost?
Huh?
He's back
He's
and
still
forth.
coming back and forth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike, do you know the cost of a phase 1 study on average?
Not off the top of my head.
No ballpark, no idea at all?
We did
Not
a,
at this point.
Ballparking it right now.
do we
No.
know what we got? Didn't we get the brownfields grant for our property where it used to be the shooting range?
Well, we did.
I don't know.
Didn't we do a phase 1
I
there?
think that was to remediate it though, wasn't it? That's to.
Well,
Well, we had
I
to see
thought we
what
had to
was there
study
before
it
we
to
could
see, yeah.
remediate it.
The first was a study and
Was
then
it?
there was a
Okay.
follow-up grant, I think, for the remediation work that
Okay.
needs to be
Yeah.
done.
So the question is, how
So
you have
much
to-
was
you have to
phase 1?
deter-
Yes, that's my question, is how much is phase 1?
As of 2024, a typical Phase 1 environmental site assessment costs range between $1,800 and $3,200.
There you
The
go.
price depends on the property size, location, and turnaround time. Sometimes Phase 1's prices can be as high as $6,500.
Even still,
Okay.
that's not anything,
no.
I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not,
No.
if he wants to sell the property.
21E, that's what it is, 21E.
Right,
So-
but the thing is, once he finds that out, Katie, he could back right out
Yep.
of all of this, so.
Exactly.
Which is always
What it
A
is, yeah, that's
potential
what it is.
anyway, Nate, you're right,
Yeah.
you're right.
It's, any of that's a potential when you're dealing with a private
Mhm.
seller, but the whole fact is, if he's gonna back out over that when we're gonna have to have it anyway, I'd rather have him do it now than when we've already spent 30 grand and now we got nothing.
I mean, this was all parts of discussions we
Yeah.
had during our last meeting, so it's just, again, you can understand why we've been kicking our heels
Mhm.
here
Yeah.
and just, it's like we can't move forward until we, you know,
Cause that's gonna be problem number 1 is how contaminated is that ground and what is it gonna do to resolve it? Then we can move on to, okay, that we can get around. Now, let's look at can we fit in these buildings and can we actually make them work? That's problem number 2. So we need to solve problem number 1 first and ask him to do the whatever, phase 1, and then we can move on to either ruling it out or making it a real possibility, even though I still.
Can I just ask the question, how enthusiastic is this gentleman to sell this property at all? I mean, has anybody sat down with him and got his feel for that? I understand he travels a lot back and forth overseas and whatnot, but,
Well, he's always intended, he
Yes.
wants to get rid of it because he wants
well,
to
for how many years,
permanently.
wants to
how
be,
many years
yes.
has he been wanting to get rid of it?
No, he's originally, when we looked at it, his plan was like 4 or 5 years from the time we looked at it to like move.
Well, when did
And that
Mike
was
Mike
like-
Stoddard started the group that first looked at it?
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
This was in 2000, because I was part
2000,
of, I was part of the
When
planning
they were
board at
looking
that
at
point.
2000?
No,
And the
this
CICC.
was like,
You mean
when we
2020?
started,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Sorry,
like
no,
2020.
Yeah.
Before COVID.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it was like right around COVID before
Have my
COVID.
years wrong here again.
I mean, are we just spinning our wheels here? Do we know?
So, can I?
Is he gonna be willing to spend the money to even do a study, or is he gonna say, forget it, I'll just keep the property for $3,200?
No, I've had some decent conversations with him. He does seem interested. There were times where previous town administrators and previous boards have had sort of rent-to-own type conversations with him.
Yeah.
And so there's been a variety of conversations. At the most recent point, the John does seem interested. I would want to protect both the town and Jan if we were to move forward and not watch the town spend too much money. Why I'm doing my best to stay relatively impartial here is because I will do the research on whatever you guys wanna do. I just, with our limited bandwidth, don't want to just be doing stuff all over. Like, I will do whatever
Well, I
I'm
think there's a hierarchy of things that has to happen here, and I agree with Katie. The first thing is we gotta get this study done somehow, some way, to see what we're up against environmentally, right? So, I mean, let's take that as step one, and I understand the urgency to get this building built, and, we wanna move along with it, but
We're also tied by the fact that we have to,
Spend the ARPA.
we
Right.
have to say where the ARPA's going
Right.
by the end of the year.
right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna know real quick
Yeah.
if he's going to be willing to do a phase 1 study. And we get that done, at least we have the answer. It doesn't mean it has to be cleaned up to move on to
Right.
allocating the ARPA, we need that information
Mhm.
to move forward, cause if it's like,
I could reach out to him tomorrow.
yeah.
Will a phase one study give us the cost of cleanup, or is that additional money to get
It's
into that?
gonna tell us what's in there.
Okay.
You can write the scope however you want, but generally, I'm sorry, Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road, generally what the TA said, I concur with that.
I can go back, or if anyone remembers, and see how much lot 57 was, cause that certainly would tell us how much it would take to remediate, but I think that's putting cart before horse a little bit, because we're not even at a point where if we know that could be somehow, some way perfectly clean. So I would hate to see us pay for an expensive study to find out what we would need to do, to then be told, nope, clean as the day.
Step. We gotta take the steps in the proper order, and I understand the urgency, so we gotta start doing that sooner than later. But I think the first step is to see what's in the ground and what we need to deal with and how much that's gonna
Let's put it
cost,
to a vote.
if
No, I
anything.
agree with that, cause a comment I'd like to make, after listening to everybody here, cause as long as I've been on the board, as everybody knows, I've always been pushing for the new buildings, because I was on the initial committee that studied the buildings. I can tell you exactly how illegal we are in terms of fire. We're renting a fire department. We have to have custom-made fire trucks every time we need a fire truck, because we're putting it in a temporary building called a barn. That's all that building was intended to be. We're in a classroom building, okay? So the police station, I can remember they had, well, there's nothing for women there as far as, if they had to temporarily lock somebody up, and there's nothing to lock them up with, but there's no separation between guys and gals, which is supposed to have in police stations.
Juveniles and adults,
Yeah.
the big one.
There's no places for evidence, et cetera, safe places to lock things up. My point I'm trying to make is I've always advocated, I've been pushing, and I know it's been unsuccessful, but for a new structure, but one thing that I heard in the discussion that would concern me in terms of how I feel about this is that with what is there in Jan's place and the potential, what I did not wanna hear, but it came across to me this way, that we're going from structures that were not built to begin with to act for a police station and a fire station, and it sounds like we're advocating to go and build other structures that are not intended to be police or fire. So we're taking our problem of that we have with these buildings and recreating it. I have trouble getting behind that, that's just me personally, but in the same sense, I think one thing we're all in agreement with, and that is we cannot just do nothing, to Mike's point and to everybody else's. By not, we visit it again in the next year or 2 years, it's more expensive. None of these problems are gonna go away. So we have to, as a town, as a board, as a plant, we've gotta choose the road we're gonna take. But if we go this road, my point is that in all these studies from cost factor, et cetera, is that I don't want us looking wherever we are with the idea, well, it's a temporary thing. And so they're gonna be shortchanged again, because it'll be, you know, I won't be around, it'll be a long, long time before you ever get another one.
You don't know that.
You know,
Even,
but anyway, so that's how I feel, but I agree, plan one is to, you know, find out what's in the ground, absolutely.
Request that it be found, because
Yeah.
we're not gonna do it.
No,
Right,
we're not
right.
doing it, no.
So do we still need a motion to, or are we gonna hold off on allocating the 30,000?
It sounds like that's the case, but I don't wanna speak for the board.
To have the motion to approve this? Are
No,
we- No, we're not, we're not in that position yet.
he's
Okay,
gonna
so,
ask
I can reach out to Jan.
so there's no action we'll take on the money thing right now, then?
So then the question just comes back to Carrie's point is, what's the direction to the Public Safety Building Committee? At this time, should we be holding on meetings and everything else until we get results back from the phase one, upon results back with phase one, back to the SB here to see if we should at that point continue based on what we find? Because otherwise, we're back to, you know, twiddling the thumbs.
No, yeah, no, I would say, wait until phase one is completed, because that'll give you the reason for your meeting, because it might be to adjourn permanently, in terms of, on that aspect, cause now we gotta come up with something new.
Yeah.
Cause until we all know what is in that ground and what we're looking at in terms of cost, it makes everything all moot. Yeah.
And then, do we have a timeline of when we'd like that study complete by, before we say, okay?
Well, we are on a deadline, cause the
I would say
ARPA money,
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Night.
Tomorrow would be great.
I would think you could get it done within a month. I don't see it within a month.
cause the ARPA money goes back to the state come December.
Can I quickly interject here? Mr. Johnson and his wife currently are in Iceland, so communication with them has to obviously be initiated.
Yeah.
You know how to communicate with them via Viber. There's a couple of issues that will have to be addressed by him, and he will have to basically say, is he willing to do this here or not? Because before he actually, before this study can take place, and he has been doing so successfully but has not completed, the vehicles that he has in the back need to be removed, because that's really the area that needs to be potentially assessed. And that's part of the project. So he will have to evaluate your request, which is do a brownfield study. In order to do the brownfield study, he needs to know what the requirements are, meaning all vehicles need to be removed, an area needs to be open so that the studies can take place. And in all of those steps, he needs to understand what are the things that he needs to do and by when can he do it. And once he can come back with that assessment, the next question is how can he potentially receive brownfield funds in order to do this here? I don't think that everybody has $6,500 potentially to do this year, or even $1,800, and I cannot speak for him and say that he's potentially willing to do so. I think he may, but if there are funds from the state government or other agencies in order to be able to do this here, or at least subsidize a good portion of this here, it behooves him to do so. But again, there's prerequisites to get to that, and he has to establish what those prerequisites are. Removal of equipment, removal of vehicles, etc., and prepping it so that somebody can come in. And only he can provide you with that information.
And won't
because
that all, I'm sorry, and won't that all up the price of the,
No, because
No,
that's,
it's appraisal.
he does that.
He has
That's
to do
part of
that.
his work.
The town
He's
can't
been,
pay more than
he's been already taking numerous vehicles out of there. Some of them go to, for sale, others he dismantled completely and taken parts that are working, the rest goes to the, goes up here to Rutland. That's how he has been working this year. And so, it's a manpower issue that he needs to address here. And so so there's the timing for him to, when he's back, which I believe might be in around the May timeframe. And second is how long will it take him to make that land available so that the studies can take
Yeah,
place.
at the same time, I'm gonna be very clear, I don't wanna wait around 6 months for this grant. Like,
Well,
we
let
have
me-
to, cause
let-
we have to do,
Let me
it's a
just,
certain
let me just
amount.
point one thing out, and that is that, 4 years ago, we were in the same position.
I'm aware,
And
and
4
it-
years down the road, we're still in the same position, but it was not his fault, quite frankly.
not saying it
And
was
it was
his
just
fault,
simply
yeah.
collectively, COVID came, and collectively, there was a lot of issues that needed to take place. And I will be honest with you, my personal perception as a town resident, coming up with a new fire station, which is probably going to be in the $10 to $15 million range, is my personal feeling from what I've heard, will be something that will have its own time frame to be absorbed by this town before it even gets accepted. So I think we need to understand what the parameters are here. A, is he willing to do so, and what is the maximum amount of time that he will need in order to do so? And then you can decide,
but you
I'm
can
out of
sit
the
there and
picture or
say
not.
10 million as a scary number, we can buy a property and nobody gives us, we don't ever get far enough ahead because we're gonna have to go back to the town to borrow more money and it never gets there, you know,
I
to finish
agree.
renovations,
We
so
have-
we
we
could
have that property
be
already.
stuck
Yeah.
with, we have kind of a fire department, police are
Temporary
still
legal,
over
yeah.
here,
Yeah.
we're still screwed, you know, so.
I think we're getting
Yeah.
way down
Way
the
down
road
the
on
rabbit
this
hole.
subject, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about brownfields right now, what Jan has to do to, is his name Jan?
Jan Johnson, yes.
Yep.
Jan Jansen has to do
And his
to
wife.
get this study done. I mean, I think that's step one. I think we gotta get him engaged to the point where he gets a sense of urgency about him. If we explain to him that we're under the time crunch, can you help us out by, you know, expediting this process for us? Then we can get people in there, and I think we gotta take this in chunks.
Yep.
He
because-
did note that the Johnsons wouldn't be back in the States until May. So I don't think we're talking any time between now and May.
So, I mean, you can't really move forward with that property right now, so you're talking May already. I mean, yeah, we've been waiting, I mean, town's been waiting how long? 30 years, 40 years for a fire station, police station?
Again, I think
He's gonna have to do it anyways, if somebody else doesn't buy, if we don't buy it, not any sane person in this world is gonna buy a property that knows it's had junk cars on it for 40 years.
I think somebody already
30
said that
years.
would have to be done regardless.
Yeah.
If he wants to sell the property
He's
to
gotta get it
anybody, it's
done.
gotta be done,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
So that's the $1 million question. Does he want to sell the property under the time constraints we have to even consider it? I mean, what's his urgency to sell the property is what I'm saying. 'Cause it seems like we've been talking about this forever and a day, and
Well, let's see what we can find out
Right. I
between
think we
now
gotta-
and our next meeting.
Yeah, I'll start a conversation
Yes.
with him about
As to where he's at.
Make sure he's clear about what he has to do.
Put the feelers out there, would you? Get this going.
That way he
Either
doesn't
one way
feel
or
like
other.
he doesn't know.
We gotta go somewhere.
We wanna be very
Carrie, go ahead.
transparent.
I just, for the board, because Jeff, you said something earlier, like what you were hearing from everybody collectively, so for me, I don't know if that's the same way for the rest of the committee, I'm hearing that most of you are not thinking this is the best idea, but you're willing to move forward to let us do some of this. If this works out okay, I just don't wanna come back and for everybody to say, no, you're still not getting any money because we all feel like this is not the route to go. So I just,
I don't think we can, even though I don't like it, I
Yeah.
don't think, first of all, I'm one person of a town of like 5,000 people, so that doesn't matter. What matters is we can't realistically put a pin in it until we have looked at it thoroughly.
I understand all that, Katie, I
Yeah,
totally do,
so-
I just, if it comes back and the land's okay and it looks good and, but, cause you're all saying that, you know, to build on, to Mickey Mouse something, to put them in a temporary position, and I want you to understand where we're coming from, and we said it, we have to, it was all done so quickly the last few times, and there was we didn't consider the public, so we are just doing everything we need to do to say we've covered every aspect and track, and we're not trying to rush through this. At least I'm not trying to rush through it, but I do know that as time goes on and things are still going up, even Travis said stuff is still going up, it's just gonna cost more the longer we wait, as
Yep.
long as everybody understands that, so I just don't wanna come again and, you know, have.
And, you know, personally, that's not the feeling I have, you know, we shouldn't let best get in the way of better, right? What we have now is, you know, quickly outliving its, you know, usefulness, if it hasn't already. If we do a study and we figure out, you know, this place is a potential, then that would be better, right? If we figure out it's not a potential, then we might have to step up to best, you know, in some other way or form. But I think we're so far removed from making any decision like that at this point, that we have to speak to Mr. Johnson and get the ball rolling here
We
one
gotta
way or
start
the other.
somewhere.
And I agree, I don't think we can tell you to disband your
Heather's
committee
thinking.
or continue having meetings or what until
Heather's thinking, I can see it.
we see.
Is it that obvious?
Yes,
Like,
it
do I
is.
have a
Yeah.
light
You
goes
have
on,
a-
says
yeah,
Heather's
you had-
thinking?
you had a look on your face, she was like in some deep yeah. You were thinking about something.
I
But
can
no,
reach out to
it's-
him.
Yeah, reach out to, I think we're all in agreement, at least at this phase, we can't move forward until we have that answered, cause that will be problem number one that you can't get around. Sorry.
You're the chair while he.
Oh, I'm the chair?
uses the restroom.
Alright, so they've, yeah, no kidding. Do we wanna keep arguing about this and talking in circles, or we're just gonna?
Let's move on.
No, but I think I just wanna bring up one more time, I understand that he's out of the country and we don't expect him back for a while, but we need a commitment one way or the other, whether he's interested in doing phase one. If he says, I ain't doing it, then we're done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then we
If-
can move on right from there
If he
at that
says, I am
point.
doing
Yeah.
it, we need
Yeah.
to know when that approximately is, and we also need to know what his commitment level is, cause it looks like from looking online real quick, there's a phase one and phase two, and it looks like we're gonna very quickly end up in a phase two. Because the phase one is just looking at the site, talking, interviewing, looking at pictures, and they're gonna be like, oh, cars, phase two. And then that's gonna be the question, so part of the conversation with him is, you know, how far are you willing to go with getting the answer here? If phase one, we can already probably do our own phase one, right?
So then do we need up to a phase two right now?
So I think
And I don't
Nate
wanna,
needs to
like-
just pull the information, but I think the question is whether or not, you know, Nate can use, you know, MRPC or whoever else is the experts on that for probably little cost to no cost, to get a clarified answer on
Absolutely.
what would be an absolute minimum of what we would need to know to have enough information, and then get the commitment. And again, there's brownfields grants out there and so forth, but once the commitment comes, then the question goes to, you know, to get those grants, or to get the work done, what's the timeline on that? And we've been working on this for such a long period of time. I know he's not back till May, but we need a commitment of when that stuff would be. And it needs to be relayed back to the Public Safety Complex Building Committee, cause folks have put their time in and their energy and keep coming back to these meetings. And we need to know, and then it needs to come back before this board, but I'd say by the next meeting, we at least need an update from Nate. I don't think we need the whole committee here, but I think we need an update from Nate on whether this is a doable or we're at a juncture.
And I'm a week and a half away from being done the budget for the season, so I'll have time to.
Got plenty of time, you get all kinds of time.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah,
Nate, I offer myself to help you should you have communication
Yeah.
difficulties with, if you want to have a verbal communication with him.
I'll shoot him an email tomorrow just to get the ball rolling, and then
Did you say
we'll-
he's back in town now?
No.
Oh,
No, he's
I
in
thought
May.
someone had
He
said.
was
they-
in town until 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay, alright,
That's when Mike, Kerry, and myself went down
Yeah,
and walked the
okay.
property.
misunderstood that.
And it was not opened to a wider audience because the turnaround was really fast. I think I
Right,
said,
yeah.
hey,
Sure.
can you do this tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then,
Alright.
we have a direction to go, and any last minute things?
Nope.
Thank you for all the work
Let's
you've
go now.
done.
Thank you guys, go
It-
home.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, it's just you that's leaving, everybody else is staying, lucky that one.
I'm leaving.
Huh, Peter's leaving, he's out.
Keep you in line.
The rest of the rest of this should go pretty fast.
Hopefully.
Okay, moving on, we have our consent agenda.
Jesus, we finally made it to consent.
First of all, the select board minutes from February 5th, we were all here. And a resignation of Mandy Donaldson from Parks Commission, effective February 21st, 2024.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made and second, any discussion, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Ready to go
Favor?
with Peter?
Opposed?
Doesn't matter,
Motion
don't vote.
carried, 4 yeses and 1 abstain.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, we'll go to new business. The Monty Tech Lottery Opposition Letter Proposal. Nate, you wanna just
Thank you, Mr.
take
Chair.
the lead on that?
Yep, so as I sent the select board an email from Superintendent Brown a few weeks ago, there is a proposal with, I believe, the Department of Education support to change the way in which Monty Tech holds their admissions standards from each town getting a certain allotted number of students to a random lottery. We were reached out to by Superintendent Brown to ask if we would write a letter in opposition to that due to the fact that it would randomize our budget as a community and take some opportunities away from students from smaller communities being able to plan for their vocational education and move forward with that planning. So that is the letter that I wrote. I would bring it up on the screen, but my computer has now died. So, but if there are any questions, I can,
I only have one, Nate.
yes.
Do we know if all of the, regional, or all of the vocational schools in the state currently operate the same way our vocational does? With regards to student admissions?
I do not know the answer to that question. I wanna say random lottery is a new concept, but I cannot speak to that with full transparency.
So now for the random lottery, I know I remember reading that letter, but that was a number of weeks ago. Do they do merit-based first? Like, so if KP and I put in our it's not like we're in the top 20 and then from the 20 we do a lottery to see who's
The
going.
admission standards would be as they have right now, where you and Chris apply. If you both get in, you are entered into the random lottery. Students who do not get in are not entered into the lottery, and then 1, 2, 3.
So there's a minimum criteria.
Families and kids will no. They might be in 1 year and next year they don't get it again. I mean, it's awful.
Well, I think once they're in,
Once
they're
you're
in.
you're in. You don't, they don't do it every year.
That's crazy.
They just do a freshman lottery.
It is, yeah.
I mean,
No, I mean, there's some, yeah,
Well,
there's
are
a
we-
minimum criteria.
To move things
100%, yeah.
along, unless you have further to add, could, we all kind of feeling the same way, cause what Nate would like from us would be a motion to authorize him to submit the opposition letter.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and second, any discussion on that? All in favor? Yes.
I'd like to discuss
Oh.
the fact that I think you did a great job on the letter, Nate.
Thank you, sir.
Very well said and very well spoken, and you put forward our concerns in a very good manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
for-
I approve.
Okay, thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
yes.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, second item, Rutland Regional Dispatch Advisory Committee, again, Nate, if you would.
So this is not a new issue, this has been an issue that we have been discussing since I got here and much longer before that. The Rutland Regional Dispatch is set up in such a way that the town of Rutland has almost full control over it. This year and in previous years, with the budget jumping to the extent that it has, I asked a number of questions about why. It was director, it was benefits, it was collective bargaining. So what I am writing in this letter with the support of both of the chiefs here tonight is a request to seek a IMA to have a different way considered. Whether it be starting a advisory group, which I chose the wording here because it had the best acronym, if I'm being honest, or looking into a district. What I'm hoping here is to just start a conversation with the other member communities about ways to involve more communities than just one in some of the major decisions that will have a financial stake. Right now, the IMA does state that there will be quarterly meetings of X, Y, and Z. Those do not happen as quarterly as they are supposed to. So I wrote this letter in hopes that we could at least open a conversation. If the idea that I'm presenting in the letter is not the best for all of the communities, I am very much open to discussing other ways, but the way I see it is sort of like a select board. If there's going to be a new director brought forth, that person would interview with this committee. If there's going to be a collective bargaining agreement signed, that bargaining agreement would go forth before the committee, not just one community, so.
Right, well, I mean, all these communities pay for this, not just Rutland, so they should have a say. And we, the chair and I pushed this on them, what was it, 3 years ago? Two years ago. When we were negotiating the last contract, and here it is, it falls on deaf ears. I mean, just look what they've done with this tower. I mean, they've dropped the ball on that. They're losing thousands of dollars of income from that. Not the town, they are, so.
With the tower, which will come up, the town does have its fair share of responsibility in the ball getting dropped, but.
I beg to differ, fair share. You haven't been here long enough to know. It's, trust me.
Is there a motion?
Fair share. It's on the other side.
Yeah. If we get
Only with the D.
a motion to
So the-
authorize the chair to sign the Rutland Regional Emergency Communications Center intermunicipal agreement as
So
presented.
Second.
Motion made in second. Any further discussion on it? Any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, interim town clerk authorization.
Long and short, I sent you guys a very long email. I am looking for authorization to seek and bring on a interim town clerk, $50 an hour, which is the going rate. I would like to keep it to 12 hours. The person that I am talking to, who has several decades of experience as a town clerk and is currently doing interim work, wanted me to put this forward first to make sure that it was a possibility before putting her name out there. But I am looking for select board approval to hire an interim town clerk. I hope that it is a very short interim period.
So the motion that we're looking for would be to authorize Nate to seek an interim town clerk until the position is filled at a rate of $50 per hour, up to 12 hours per week.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion, any questions? Chris?
No.
Oh, I thought your hand was up. Okay.
And there may be another level of discussion in the coming weeks because the position is not getting the level of interest that I was hoping. So I'm going to look at how other communities have it structured and potentially, if we do not get more interest, make a proposal to change something.
Anything else? Seeing none, we'll end the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item D, 21 Gardner Road, Emergency Communications Tower easement. Again, Nate, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is what I was talking about, and only this is what I was talking about
Yeah.
when I said the town of Hubbardston shares in the responsibility of the tower. I am well aware that we had nothing to do with a lot of this other than this deed right here. Long and short, what happened here, the select board and town meeting several years ago, I believe in 2020, moved forward with a deed. Communication was then lost, turnover was then had, a global pandemic was going on. The deed was never signed and never filed with the registry. So in order to move forward with the RFP to seek.
Seriously.
Yes, they built a tower on an illegal parcel.
Kidding.
Like,
So it's ours then?
yeah,
It's ours.
I don't know if that's how that works. But I'm just seeking a reapproval so that we may move forward with the RFP to seek commercial carriers on the pole. On the tower, nothing about poles.
So what we'd be looking for as a motion is for him to re-sign the Emergency Communications Tower easement at 21 Gardner Road as he presented.
So moved.
Second.
Move. Any discussion? Any questions? Yes, Francois.
Quick question, do we know as to whether or not the planning board will have to be involved if a carrier comes in and seeks to participate in that tower?
Yes.
Okay.
The
Still
planning
under
board
special
would
permit.
have to be, like, there are, like, that is the, I'm trying to get to that point.
Gotcha.
And it has taken a year to get to this point.
Yep.
So.
That's fine, I just wanted to know whether or not this was exempt or not, but from my understanding, it was never exempt, but I just want to confirm that.
To my understanding as well, it would have to follow all
Protocols, or the bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes,
Yes.
opposed, motion carried. Old business. Let's see. I don't think so. We don't have any old business, but, TA report,
I will keep this one short, noting only that I have to stop saying these meetings are gonna be short.
Yeah, you lie.
So, the only part of the town administrator report that I feel is completely necessary to speak about this evening is that I attended the budget meeting of the budget subcommittee for the Quabbin Regional School District. They are currently proposing an 11.96% increase versus our previously reported almost 16. That is still not anything that would be pretty if we had to move forward, even with the proposal that will be presented in 2 weeks as the town administrator's proposed budget, which is balanced at somewhere between 9 and 10%. Whenever a 9 and 10% school increase, this on top of that would be an additional $168,000. That I am hoping that they will come down, but they did note that the school would like to wait for the state to put out more numbers before moving forward with additional considerations, because it would be personnel. It is noted that it is the same here, but that's where we are at this moment, and yeah. Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
Chris?
Do you get any details of what they've done to drop from the 16% down to the 11.6%?
I believe I have a picture of the PowerPoint. I have not been sent anything. I do not have a file of the PowerPoints. I will look back, and if I took a picture of the PowerPoint, I will send it over. I tried to screenshot as much as I could.
Has that meeting been posted yet?
I'd have to check.
I
I
don't
didn't
think
look
so.
on YouTube. Or, yeah, I could also go on YouTube and screenshot the YouTube.
Yeah.
Can they just send us the PowerPoints?
They could.
We could request
We could
the
likely
various
request the
versions
PowerPoint.
of them.
Yeah.
They're gonna say, oh, here we go. It's up to their old tricks.
But that is
Anything
all
else?
for the rest of is updates that I can present on another evening.
Good.
Anything else on the TA report?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
No policies to review. Both chiefs appreciate you having to sit here, but with the deadlines that we have to get things on the agenda, for all purposes, we have to put it here at the end, okay?
No problem.
Cause yours,
They love sitting.
Nat is not reasonably accepted, we have 3 items to take care of. The first is the Hubbardston Police, full-time officer request. Would you like to speak on that?
Sure. So I'm just requesting that we hire, Juan Palmer, he's a resident of Gardner, he's in the Army currently and he's processing out. We actually interviewed him back like 4 or 5 months ago, and I've been waiting for him to just get in a position where he can, say with confidence that he'd be able to attend the academy that we would send him to. We would send him to the Boylston Police Academy, which would start in July on the 8th, and it would run till December. The fee for the academy is $3,200, and equipment's around $5,000. I would be able to absorb that in my budget that I have proposed. And even if there were cuts to that budget, I'd still be able to afford this position. I have 2 open full-time positions, so this is just filling one of those, which we're currently filling with overtime, which is obviously more expensive, so. Good candidate, just has no police experience, so we need to train him and send him to the academy.
Gotta start somewhere.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, what did you say the academy? How much does the academy cost?
The tuition fee is $3,200, it's another around $5,000 in equipment.
Thank you.
So from us, we just need to tell them to go ahead with it, but
Yep.
do we need that
Because
as
I
a
don't
motion?
believe this is not a official appointment,
No,
correct?
it's-
He would not be, he wouldn't be sworn in, it's really just to hire him. There's processing that has to take place to get him into an academy, and we need to sign him up, and we need to send him to some, like medical exams, things like that, of that nature, but he needs to be hired by the town in order
So
to
we
do
need-
that.
So you need an actual motion to hire?
So we'd be
Authorizing Nate
hiring him.
to hire him, right?
We wouldn't begin, we wouldn't be paying him until he goes to one of these things, so it would be, it wouldn't be, we're not paying him 40 hours a week now, we're just going to be paying him when he works, when he has to go do one of these things, when he has to take a PT test for the academy, and then when he starts the academy is when we'd actually be,
Mr.
incurring
Chairman, I'm
most of
asking
the
that
costs.
you appoint Juan Palma to the position of police recruit. He will be paid the first level, and we will go through the process of setting up for his eventual attendance at the academy in West Boylston in the summer of 2024.
Would
So
someone
moved.
make that thank you, Val.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Is your hand?
I have a question for Chief Goodrich. Is there a requirement on the candidate side to, or commitment in terms of the time that he will have to serve with the town after investing in his training and education?
There isn't currently, no, we've never asked that of any of our recruits before.
Is that something that is typically done or not typically done? Because again, it's a significant investment, right?
It is, it's done in some towns,
I don't think we've
however,
ever done it here, at least
there's
not
not
in the
much
years
that
I've
you
been
can
here.
really recoup from them if they do leave early. You could probably get back your academy fee, but most of the money that we're putting into them is their salary, is paying them, and you cannot recoup salary, obviously, because you have to pay them a wage.
I understand. Thanks for clarifying.
Sure.
Okay, Mike?
Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road. Mr. Chair, rather than recouping funding, can you have a time amount that they have to commit to?
Well, that's really what I was.
That's
Yeah,
what-
that's-
that's
that-
what they were saying.
Yeah, but
That would be
but
the
it got off,
penalty.
it went off into the cost rather than the time. That's what I wanted to
So you
know.
can require them to do it, but if they break that agreement, the only thing you can recoup from them is the cost.
Okay, so you can't get
There's no
the
recourse.
time, so.
Right, correct.
I got you.
Correct.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Anything further discussion wise? The motion is on the table, so all in favor?
Aye.
Yes,
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Brian.
Yep, thank you.
Bob, you're up, about the grant.
Yes, looking for your permission to submit a grant for this Friday to FEMA AFG grant for replacement engine for engine 2. I checked with the rep, they said the updated, like, the safe price would be $970,000, which the town, if we were awarded that amount, would be a $40,190 match. I don't think that price is the actual, so the match would be lower. Last time it was priced last year, it was $803, but I think they just wanna put a safe number in there in case. So that's, they didn't go through the whole bid, spec again. They took the spec we had and they ballparked the price. So it'll probably be lower than that, so the match would be even lower than the 40. It's a very competitive grant process, so if we did get it, it would be a huge thing, but.
Huge.
Yeah.
So if we got this, are you saying we basically get a fire truck for free?
$40,000.
Yeah.
40,000.
Less than your truck.
But
Oh, well, that's
it might, the odds might be getting all 12 of your Keno
It's like
numbers
hitting the
come out
lottery,
at the
right,
same
yeah, it's
time,
like
yeah.
hitting the Powerball.
But it does happen,
Yeah.
and somebody does have to win. so.
Somebody has to.
And we do have a little influence on the chances of it coming in, so.
Nice.
Does it,
Absolutely.
is this one of the vehicles that would have to be custom sized for our,
Yeah.
so would that make our grant application here more competitive if we included that information in to explain how much additional cost is always added because we have to customize the vehicle?
No, it's not a totally different truck because it's,
Okay.
but we do have to make sure because, like we talked about before, if you, like this is a pumper tanker,
Mhm.
so it's gonna have 2,500 gallons of water. You either go up or you go out or both. And with the size of the station, you don't have a lot of options because it's a 10-foot door and it's only 40 feet. So yes, there is added costs than like compared to buying off the rack,
Yep.
so to speak.
But you don't think it will make the AFG grant more competitive?
No, we do talk about how we have failing infrastructure and all that in the grant. They get a feel of the community's background and stuff. So.
Okay, so you put more
That you rent
information
your
in
fire
than what's
station.
in this?
You know what I mean?
Oh, there's a
Okay.
whole, I think 2-page narrative just on
Okay.
that stuff, yeah, so.
Mike?
Yeah, Mike Stahl, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road. Through the chair, Chief, can you tell us what the cost would have been, or an estimate, if it didn't have to be modified? Because we can use that information for the Public Safety Building Committee to say, here's a cost, we could have had cost avoidance, but for we have this constraint with our existing facilities.
I don't have that, what exactly it would be, it depends. I mean,
Can you get it?
I could, well, there's a lot of variables,
Right.
because, if you could, I guess, the actual engineering and all that, you're saving some money on it, but you could buy a whole different, like, if you wanted to buy like a international cab and put a truck on that, and then it's 10.5 and it's a little bit long, it's not gonna fit. So, and if you went with that style of truck, you could save a couple $100,000, potentially. But the actual engineering and stuff like that, it's not that much of a difference, so I don't know, I'm not explaining exactly right, but like, if you would have more options on what kind of truck you were purchasing, where if you didn't have to worry about 10-foot doors and
Or you
bay life.
might even be able to find something a few years old, used, or
Yeah,
something.
and you would,
Then there'd
because,
be a considerable savings.
well, that's a different thing nowadays too, because the new trucks are so expensive. If you get a truck that was 10 or 12 years old, that's used, yes, you're gonna pay less, but you're probably gonna pay $400-something, $500,000 for that truck, because it has value still, because the new market's so high, just like used cars, so. But yeah, that does limit, you can't get into a lot of those used vehicles because of the
Building is.
building that we're in.
But to your point, that you're definitely saving.
Cost justification.
There-
Thank you,
yeah.
Mr. Chair. Thank
It
you,
has
Chief.
been every
You're welcome.
time we have to get a vehicle, okay? So, so you just need from us authorization to apply, or have you already applied for the grant?
It'll be submitted, well, this week it'll be submitted, yeah, the grant's 80% done, so.
Okay, so could we get a motion to authorize the chief to apply for the following grant: Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program Vehicle Acquisition?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second, any
I did have
comments?
one quick question.
Go ahead.
So if we won this grant, when and where are we coming up with 40 grand?
Likely either the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund or free cash, depending on how it fell.
And when, do we know when we are actually gonna know?
They started awarding the grants, the projected date is April, but they changed it, but it's a long process, they go through the whole thing. I don't know exactly for sure, but I think it could potentially run until the end of the year.
Okay.
And where you're gonna, it's like I don't know for sure if it's 6 months or 5 months, but it is a long time when they go through all these. So they start awarding them right off the bat. So potentially you could be looking not this fiscal year, the one after, where we could get awarded December.
Okay.
And then,
But we have time to come up,
Yeah.
figure out the 40
Yeah.
grand portion. Okay.
We wouldn't have to immediately come up with
Yeah, like, oh, shit.
$40,000.
We
It would
won.
be-
Great.
it would be
Who's got
down to
40
down
grand?
the
and like I
line.
said too, that number's on the high end.
Yeah.
Just because of that, because of the time frame. Hopefully it would come down, that match would probably be even lower, so.
Mhm. Okay, anything else? Alright, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Yes?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried, thank you both, okay. The last thing we have, is a resignation, from the, library trustees and cultural council of, Mr. Edward Cronin. So, could I have a motion to accept the resignation?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, the last thing there's nothing from, any questions from anybody, press, okay, so we'll take a motion to adjourn,
So moved. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, meeting adjourned, thank you.